sponsored by the Dallas Examiner. I'm Christy Thomas, the coordinator for tonight's event. Tonight, I want to give the candidates and the audience a few housekeeping guidelines to ensure that the forum moves smoothly so we can provide a space that is safe and conducive to learn about each candidate and their platform. I will start with candidates. Candidates, you will have 2 minutes for your opening statement and 1 minute for questions from the audience and 2 minutes for your closing statement from the moderator and the audience. Our guest timekeeper tonight is Mr. Anthony Marshall. He will provide a placard to inform you of the time you have left to answer questions given. Candidates, this time should be spent talking about how you will implement your plan and goals for the seat if you are elected. Your time should not be spent talking about your opponent and their shortfalls or their issues. Please remain respectful throughout the forum and respect the space that has been donated to us for the purpose of educating our community on political candidates. Now to the audience. We're so thankful for your presence tonight. We ask that you formulate your question where it pertains to all candidates. Those questions cannot be personal questions. If you have a pending litigation of any sort, do not ask a candidate about that. You will be allowed 1 minute to ask your question, and only one question can be asked to allow time for others in the audience to ask the question. Again, please be respectful to prevent from any interruptions that could cause us to run out of time and not hear from each candidate listed to speak tonight. Any member of the audience should line up to my right and will be provided a microphone so that they can ask a question that everyone in the audience can hear. I want to thank you in advance for your cooperation and for your interest in being more informed about candidates running for office in your community. The Dallas Examiner has been presenting Monday Night Politics, Meet the Candidates, for over 18 years prior to major elections. I want to stress that all candidates are invited through email invitation. These candidates are pulled from the official ballot provided by the state. The Dallas Examiner does not endorse candidates. We could not do this alone. Our sponsors are nonprofit organizations, too many to name: All Black Sororities and Fraternities, the NAACP chapter, and the Links, and the African American Museum. Our moderator tonight is Eric Wilson. He is no stranger to our political climate. His career in politics started when he was elected to the Dallas City Council in 2015, where he represented District 8. His tenure on the council includes serving as Deputy Mayor Pro Tem. Wilson's educational background includes a bachelor's degree in finance from the University of Texas in Arlington and an MBA from Amerton University. He remains committed to working with and preserving the diverse landscape in his community of District 8 and addressing economic disparities within the community where he still resides. Please help me welcome him to Monday Night Politics. Lastly, please silence your phones. Video recording is not allowed, and taking pictures are not allowed. On behalf of Molly Bell and the Dallas Examiner, we would like to thank you again for attending Monday Night Politics, Meet the Candidate.
All right, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right, just a few housekeeping notes, just to reiterate a couple of things. If you need to use the restroom is straight through the door, right past the elevator. Some of you all may have noticed that we're here as opposed to being in an auditorium. That is due to the fact that it's going under renovation. Okay, and I was told we're going to have great internet service afterwards. All right, okay. Unlike tonight, it should be cool. So otherwise, it will be cool in here. For those that's involved, I apologize. I wish I could change it. Just not enough alphas in the atmosphere to be able to change it. All right. So with that, a couple of things I want to say. Again, no filming, no pictures, no filming, no pictures. So if you told your associates or people on your team, no. Thank everyone for coming. You could have been anywhere. We appreciate you being here tonight. Just understand that if you see me sweating, it's probably because there's some heavy hitters in here tonight. Okay? There's some heavy hitters in here. So if you see the candidates sweating, just understand it's the temperature, not the questions. Okay? All right. So, and audience members, please, when you ask your question, please be concise. You have 1 minute to ask your question. We do not need to hear the story, how your question relates to the Dead Sea Scrolls. We're ready to get to your question. Ask your question. If you do not ask your question in a timely manner, I will politely say, what is your question? Okay? Now, candidates, my candidates, when you ask your question, please step forward here. Is this good? Please step forward here so that you are filmed in the best lighting possible and address the audience before you. Some candidates want to turn towards me. It's best that the audience sees. That way you can get the best photo out of this. And most importantly, when you're answering a question, it is about your candidacy. I don't want to hear, the crowd does not want to hear why your opponent likes Cheerios over Fruit Loops. We don't want to hear that. We want to hear about why you're the best candidate for this position. All hearts and minds clear?
Yes.
All right. All right. So let's get started. Our first set of candidates will be for Judge Criminal Court number 6. Teresa Hawthorne will be first, and then Angela King will be second. Please step forward. All right, again, so we do invite every candidate for a particular race, those that show up with the opportunity to talk about their campaign. Since you're here, then you get all these questions. Okay? So we'll start with the 2-minute opening.
Because I can talk loud enough. Good evening. I am Judge Angela King of County Criminal Court number 6. I have been the judge of this court since first being elected in 2006. So yes, I am a part of that big, beautiful wave that came through Dallas County and has been infectiously trying to spread throughout the state and the country. Woo woo. I am from Dallas, Texas, born and bred. I am from Oak Cliff, Texas, and if you really know Oak Cliff, I am from Singing Hills, okay? We still have the house on Lazy River, and my sister still lives there, so that is who we are. I am married to a fine young man named Jimmy Corzine. He went to Carter High School. I went to Skyline High School. Yes, my son went to DeSoto High School. I'm going to have a proud parent moment at this right now and say my son actually graduated as valedictorian from his class, so I'm proud of him. I attended Prairie View University, got my law degree from Indiana University. Yes, for a little while after Prairie View, I worked as an accountant. Actually, I worked as an auditor for the state auditor's office, so I've gotten to know a lot about government in that job. After graduating law school, I came back home because I wanted to be here in Texas. I have been an assistant public defender. I have been an assistant district attorney for both Dallas and Ellis County. I was in private practice for approximately 6 years before taking the bench. And I am currently the presiding judge of the county criminal courts, which means I handle the administrative duties. This is actually about my 4th or 5th year doing it in a row. I have done it for 2 prior terms from that, and I have been a local administrative judge, and I'm asking for your support.
All right, so begin with the question. Every day in county criminal court, you see people at critical moments in their lives. Someone who's made a mistake, someone who's been victimized, someone struggling with addiction or mental illness, or someone who keeps making the same bad choices. What guides your decision about when someone deserves another chance and when accountability means consequences?
Okay, that's a good question. Growing up here in Oak Cliff, I've gotten to see quite a bit of things in my life. Being a prosecutor and a public defender and a defense attorney, I get to see quite a few things in my life. And so what I like to tell people is that everyone deserves a chance to actually, let's get this on the right track. Your position in life right now doesn't have to be where you end up. You don't have to, your circumstances don't have to be your destiny. Does that make sense? We can fix it. We have time to fix it. If you're a misdemeanor court, it hasn't gotten that bad yet. So we have a chance to actually address that behavior and let's get you on the right track so that you can go on with your life and maybe be a productive and prosperous citizen of the country.
All right. County criminal courts handle thousands of family violence cases. These cases are complicated. There's often a history of abuse, power dynamics, trauma, and sometimes victims who want charges dropped either because they're reconciled or because they're afraid. How do you approach these domestic violence cases, particularly when the victims want their case dismissed and respect the balance of their wishes with the concerns for their safety?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you a couple of things before I actually start to answer that question. In the misdemeanor courts, we have 2 courts that are designated to handle family violence cases. However, we have 13 total misdemeanor courts, and all of us can handle all of those cases. So the majority of the cases that I see are going to be the driving while intoxicated cases, the criminal trespass, the possession of marijuana. But we still do get the assault family violence cases. As a former prosecutor and someone who had to sit across from a victim and listen to them talk about how, yes, this person did victimize them, this person did hurt them, but they don't want to press charges because they don't want this person to have a record, lose their job. They don't want this person to leave them. They don't want this person to be upset and come back home after they've gotten out of jail and attack them. We have resources for you. I would never tell anyone you got to leave because I can't make that decision for you. But if you want the help, we can get you the help.
Now we'll open it up to the audience and ask a question. If you have a question, please step forward to my right and ask your question.
Hi, Ms. King. My question for you, Ms. King, you've served Dallas since 2007, as you just stated, and I still remember visiting you as a teenager. I went to Townview. I was a freshman and visited your court. I won't age myself, but that was a few years ago. I do still remember that you were very devoted to doing so, and over the years, you've handled an incredibly demanding docket while adopting to major changes in the criminal justice system and the challenges of courts that currently face as an administrative judge, which you administer. A lot of people don't know that, but also as you serve in your seat. As you look ahead, what are your top priorities for continuing to strengthen the court's efficiency, fairness, and outcomes for our community over your next term?
Oh, that's a great question, and I'm actually quite passionate about the work that we do, and I'm sure a lot of you all have heard about the changes in our computer system going from basically what was an MS-DOS system to now what is a web-based driven system. That has been nothing short of a humongous undertaking, and it is my passion and my privilege and my plan for us to get that completely done, make that system work in a way that no matter where you are in this country, you can look and see what's going on in Dallas County criminal courts, period. We can move data, we can know where people are in jail, we can know the status of their cases, we can set and release bonds, we can do everything that we need to do, and that's what I am focused on. That's what we've been working on really, really hard for these last about a year or so, a couple of years now at this point, but that's what is really important to me, that we get this system where it does what we need it to do so that we don't have to keep researching and tracking and carrying them on to get to what we need to do to get a case closed out.
Any other questions from the audience? Oh, and by the way, for those of you who are at the top, if you want to ask a question, you'll get a chance to exercise tonight, because you'll have to come down to ask your question. You can come down the steps or you can go down the elevator. Any other questions from the audience? One more. the bench with different philosophies. Some focus on strict enforcement of the law, others on problem solving, some on community protection, others on rehabilitation and second chances. Describe your judicial philosophy and how that guides you in your court.
My judicial philosophy actually encompasses all of those things that you stated. We do need to follow the law. We do need to be compassionate. We do need to focus on rehabilitation. I am one of those people that believes if you can get to the root of the problem, you can probably correct the behavior. You can find out what's causing people to do these things. Are they hungry? Are they homeless? Are they in need of help with managing anger? Whatever the situation, do they need to finish their education so that they can get a job? If we can focus on those things, then we can probably correct the behavior that has landed you in criminal court. Have you been taught conflict resolution? You would be surprised about how many people really don't know how to resolve conflict without it resorting to it being physical. And I'm not just talking about they can't get along with their girlfriend or their wife or their mother or their father. They don't know how to get along on a job. They don't understand how to pay a bill. They don't know that, you know what, you've got to go to work. You've got to make money the legal way. You've got to pay your bills on time so that you can have somewhere to live. You have to buy food, etc., etc., etc.
All right, you want to follow up on that? Can you give us an example of how that philosophy would show up and how you would handle a typical DWI case?
Okay, I believe I have a proven record of how that philosophy shows up, because even with something as simple as drinking, most people don't learn how to drink. That's the thing. You need to understand that you don't partake to the point that you've had too much, because everybody drinks, just about. Some people have an affinity to it, or they just don't drink because they've seen too much growing up, or they've had bad experiences with it. But most people have something to drink. The problem is getting behind the wheel of the car and knowing when you've had too much. We live in a time now where you can call for a ride, no matter where you live. So you've got to be able to do those things so that you don't end up in my court or another court like it. Because here's the thing, driving while intoxicated is expensive. It is not a poor man's crime. You go to jail, your car gets towed, you have to bond out of jail, you have to get an attorney. If you bond out of jail, most likely you've got to get that device. My time is up, so I'll keep answering if y'all want me to. Hello.
I have a question. How you doing?
I'm good, how are you?
So my question is this: would you take in consideration a woman that comes into your courtroom that has committed a crime, but the crime is related to domestic violence, saying she had to flee a domestic violence situation, and she was caught shoplifting or driving without a driver's license because she had to flee and leave all of her ID? Would you take into special consideration why she's in your court, why she committed the crime, and would you consider looking into their case and going, looking a little bit deeper into why she committed that crime? Because what I find out that in Dallas County, a lot of times, or the percentage of women that are incarcerated, they're either because of domestic violence, that they did something related to that, or they committed misdemeanor crimes related to survival. So would you, being a judge, would you look into that situation for that individual in your courtroom?
Okay, short answer, yes, if I need to. I pride myself on actually handling each case on a case-by-case basis. I don't have a checklist of this is what all you have to do on this particular case. I do encourage the attorneys, even the prosecution, to find out what exactly is going on and what is going to be the best way forward to handle this case.
You mentioned you have years on the bench. Voters will evaluate your work. They'll ask, did this judge make the court work better? How was justice done in this court? Question is, how do you want to be judged, and what does success look like in your courtroom? And how will your residents know that you delivered?
Can you repeat that?
You said you have years on the bench. Voters will evaluate your work. They'll ask, did the judge make the court work better? Was justice done fairly? The question is, how do you want to be judged? What will success look like in your courtroom, and how will the residents know whether you deliver?
So I believe that since I've been on this bench, I have proven what I set out to do. I was a prosecutor in the past, I was a public defender in the past, I was a defense attorney in the past, and I worked in the courts before we had the change, and I believe that I brought the change, and we're continuing to bring the change that I set out to do. It is important to me how the cases are resolved. I care about the people that come in front of me, not just the defendants, but the victims. I also care about the attorneys and the staff and the probation department and how people are treated. It's important to me how we handle criminal cases, because if you all think about it, you guys, and I thought about it, most criminal cases are a result of slavery. Think about it. You're criminally trespassing if you're in a public place and someone has told you to leave. You can't hang out here. Things of that nature. You can't possess certain things. It's my time.
Yes, your time.
Okay.
All right. Time flies when you have fun. So with that, we're at the point where we'll give you 1 minute for your closing, and during that time period, 2 minutes. Okay, I've been corrected. 2 minutes. During that time period, make sure that you let the people know how they can be in contact with your campaign.
Okay, so my website is, I'm Judge Angela King, County Criminal Court number 6. My website is the www, put the HTTPS in front of it, judgeangelaking.net. My phone number has not changed. I've had the same phone number for 27 years. In the past 27 years, guess what, you all? I have not turned my phone off. So you can call me and message me. That's just one of those habits that us criminal defense attorneys have, because your clients will contact you in the middle of the night when they've been pulled over and they're on the side of the road, and they'll keep you on the phone until the officer says, okay, it's time to hang up. So I can be reached. I still live not too far from the place that I grew up. I live in DeSoto, Texas. I'm at that courthouse, so if you want to come down there and just see what we do, because our courts are open. One of the things that's important to me also as we go forward is increasing accessibility virtually to courts, because the more that we can let people in, the better participation we get, the fewer warrants we have to issue, because people know they can see what's going on, they can watch. So that part of the court is important to me. I know you guys have heard things like court call, but we use all types of things to get people access, and those are the things that are important to me. So you can reach me any kind of way, phone, text message, email. Come down and see me, and I am, like I said, Angela King. I also want to share with you guys that I spent the weekend celebrating 25 years with Delta Sympathetic Sorority Incorporated. So I'm very, very proud of that, because I love the social action that we are engaged in. It's important, it's a part of my fabric, so that's what I believe in. Let me see. I'm a proud Concordian. I love my pastor, Brian L. Carter. And I'm going to wrap it up here, and I'm going to ask for your support. Judge Angela King, County Criminal Court number 6. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving right along to our next set of candidates. We're here from our Attorney General candidates. Mr. Anthony Box, Nathan Johnson, and Joe Dawson. Mr. Box, we'll begin with you. 2 minute opening.
Hello, my name is Tony Box, and I am a candidate for Texas Attorney General. And before I talk more about my platform, I want to tell you a little bit more about myself. I am here with my wife, Phyllis, of 30 years. I'm a graduate of Morehouse College. My wife, Phyllis, of 30 years this year. She's a graduate of FAMU. My son, Justin, a graduate of Morehouse as well, and I have 2 other Morehouse sons. And I also want to say we're fresh off of a little bit about the campaign. One of the good news that I want to share with everyone here tonight, we're fresh off an endorsement from the San Antonio Express News, one of the 4 major papers in Texas, and so they've endorsed our candidacy. They talked about me as an individual who's going to restore integrity to the Attorney General's office, and I'll speak a little bit more about that. But I did want to share that good news with you. So about me, I'm running for Attorney General of the state of Texas for one reason and one reason only, and that is to serve the people of Texas. And I have been a public servant my entire life. And before I became a public servant, I had a traumatic experience that led me here. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. When I was 16 years old, I was working at a grocery store, helping a lady with her bags out to her car. An individual came past, grabbed her purse, snatched her purse, and ran with it. I instinctively ran after him, jumped on top of him, and he shot me. Over the course of the period of time of recovery, I made a commitment to God and to myself that I would serve people. And over that time, I've done just that. I've served 20 years in the United States Army. I've been a federal prosecutor. I was an FBI agent. I went to New York after 9/11. I went to Iraq. I went to Afghanistan. And so my career has been in service only. And as Attorney General, I can stay committed to the people's service. I don't think that the Attorney General I know that the Attorney General has not been focused on serving the people of Texas over the last several years, and I plan to do just that.
Thank you. Mr. President, 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, it's great to be here. I'm Nathan Johnson. I'm a state senator from this region. I serve with my good friend Royce West, whose support I'm very happy to have in this race. I got elected in 2018. I defeated Don Huffines, a Tea Party Republican in a 30-year Republican seat. I joked at the time that if I did nothing for 4 years, it would be an improvement. But I haven't done nothing. I didn't learn from my big brother, Royce West, to sit there and do nothing. I've been able to, at the front of every Democratic fight on voting rights, equality, opportunity for everybody. In fact, Senator West and I got, for the first time in the history of this state, a tax preference to the areas that had always been overlooked in tax preferences. There is good work that we can do. I passed 135 bills as a senator, and I've fought every bit of the way with the Republican overreach. But at this moment, we just saw the comptroller shut down the historically underutilized business program. We just saw the Attorney General issue an opinion declaring everything to do with DEI unconstitutional and shutting down public finance, where we put up money to match $100 million grants from the federal government to build water projects. We are at a crisis right now, and the Attorney General stands at the intersection of federal power, state power, local power, people power, and corporations. We need somebody in there who understands state government. I've been in there for 8 years. I've been fighting Republicans, I've been working with Republicans, I've been working with Democrats to get things done and hold back the charge where we can. But we are in a crisis moment, and it is partly about Donald Trump. Democratic attorneys general around this country are the only thing that has slowed him down. I want to join that team, do more for you, and we need it right now. So I'd be very grateful to have your support getting through this primary and beating Chip Roy in November.
So just so you know, these questions will come up quick. So if you're second, just stay there. All right, the Attorney General, this question for you. The Attorney General has been involved in everything from election lawsuits to immigration enforcement to consumer protections to protecting Medicare fraud. These are different issues with different constituencies. What do you see as the AG's core mission, and what will be your top priority?
Really, there's only two things that the Constitution charges the Attorney General with doing, and that's representing the state in court and protect consumers from predation by corporations. That's the two things. You're supposed to oversee business, and for 50 years, we have seen consumer protections thrown out the window, antitrust laws not enforced. We've seen consolidation of power, which means there's no ability for labor to command good wages. There's no ability for consumers to have good stuff and be able to shop for good products. And what grows out of concentrated corporate power? Corruption. Big money setting the agenda so that those who have power keep it. The Attorney General is supposed to make sure that businesses play by the rules, that consumers are protected, and that when we represent the state, we don't represent Greg Abbott or the legislature. We represent the people of Texas, and the Attorney General's opinion is the legal position of the state of Texas. And when they put up illegally gerrymandered maps, the Attorney General, this one, is going to say those are unconstitutional.
The Attorney General has been involved in everything from election lawsuits to immigration enforcement to consumer protection to prosecuting Medicare fraud. These are very different issues with different constituencies. What do you see as the AG's core mission, and what would be your top priority?
So the AG's core mission is to serve the people of Texas. The Attorney General is the chief legal officer in the entire state of Texas, protecting 32 million Texans. And the Attorney General sues on behalf of those citizens and defends the state on behalf of those citizens. And so that's exactly what I'll do. I'll sue when necessary, when the law is unconstitutional, the citizens are being harmed. And I will protect the citizens of Texas when there's a lawsuit against the state. My top priority will be doing a top-to-bottom review of everything that's gone on in that office for the last several years and restoring integrity to that office. That is what's needed most. Leadership, I've led my entire life. I joined the Army at 18 years old, and I did the full career between active duty and reserves as both a tank commander and later as an Army lawyer. I have led large groups of men and women, and I am a leader by nature, and I understand that that office needs integrity. That office needs someone at the top who has exemplified integrity and has shown it and will infuse that throughout the organization.
All right, thank you. Just in case you came in late, just so you know, no photography, no videos, photography, no videos. All right, this question is for you. Texans get scammed every day. Fake home repair companies, deceptive lending, online fraud, senior financial exploitation. The AG's office receives thousands of consumer complaints but has limited resources. The question is, what types of consumer fraud would you make your top enforcement priority, and how will consumers know whether your office is actually helping them or just collecting complaints?
So, you're right. You're right. There are thousands of scams every day. Everyone here has either been a victim of a scam or attempted to be, someone has attempted to victimize them, or they know someone. I have spent, as an agent and as a prosecutor, and even in my current civil practice, I work for Mike Fennell. Even in my current practice, I deal with individuals who've been scammed every day, and it's nothing worse than dealing with someone who's lost their life savings to a scam. So what would I do in this regard? That office does have limited resources, but it has some resources. I will allocate resources to strengthen that department. And your question was, what's my higher priorities? Elder fraud amongst the groups of fraud, and some of the internet scams are really prevalent. I see them every day in my current legal practice, and someone needs to get after those frauds. It's not being done now. I recently had a situation where I asked an individual, did you contact the AG office about being defrauded? And he said, they told me they don't do those type of crimes. And so that won't happen again.
Thank you. On the horizon, AI is here. Last session, I actually passed a bill that created a new crime for using artificial intelligence to deceive people, particularly elderly people. And the Attorney General is charged with enforcing it. The Attorney General needs to put consumer protection at the forefront. The more sophisticated commerce gets, the more sophisticated they get at figuring out how to take money from us. If you're spending all your resources on right-wing propaganda, insert profanity, You don't have those resources to protect people. When we stop the stupid propaganda machine and start putting our resources in protecting people, our resources go a lot further. Those resources are extensive. The Attorney General has 4,000 employees, 800 lawyers, and $1 billion budget. We can get this done. We can protect people.
All right, now we're to the point of asking questions from the audience. So if you have a question, please step forward.
So the Attorney General is an attorney, right? So my question is, what are you all's respective law practice backgrounds, prosecution, defense, plaintiffs, defendants, etc.? Question. What's your law practice background?
I served as a federal prosecutor and as a district attorney, working in not the district attorney, but as assistant district attorney. I've served as a JAG. I've served in Iraq. I defended soldiers, and I advised battlefield commanders. My current practice is as a white-collar criminal defense attorney. I defend white-collar crimes. I do tax cases and large civil litigation matters.
My experience is in commercial litigation, some experience in commercial and consumer bankruptcy. Having a legal mind, legal training, legal experience is highly relevant. I don't think you'll be able to differentiate much among the primary candidates. We're all lawyers, we get it. What's important is that the Attorney General is not a practicing attorney. The Attorney General heads up an agency of 4,000 people and 800 lawyers, and it is a political position. And you have to work with entities across the country, with attorney generals across the country, with agencies, with governors, with lieutenant governors, with legislators, understanding the legislative process and having that legal discipline is critical. But it's not the practice of law. We're not filing briefs. It's not who does the best oral argument. It's not a mock trial. It's can you get the job done? And it is, even if we're depoliticizing the office, I think Tony and I agree we are depoliticizing this office, it exists in a political environment, and it's supercharged, and we need somebody who can maneuver in that environment.
Good evening, everyone. My question is related to child support. The state of Texas had a cookie cutter pattern for child support for the past 40 years, I think. As far as, and 83%, I think, is the ratio of the custodial parent being the mother. Even though that mother might not be fit to take care of the child, what is y'all plan to try to revamp that department and make it to where it's equal for both parents, or that the child get the best service from the parent that's taking it down?
Thank you for the question. I've heard a number of fathers concerned that the Child Protective Services and the child collection, or the child support collection services have been biased against them. When you have an agency that is neglected to the extent that Ken Paxton has neglected it, when you have staff there that is grotesquely underpaid and that is way overworked, you're going to have all kinds of problems with that agency. One thing we need to do is raise the pay of people who work in that office and give them a lower caseload so that they can do their jobs well. I think some of the problems get taken care of when we just have people able to function better. But the next part is just to listen. In 8 years in the state Senate seat, my office is wide open. Come in, talk to us, and that is how change happens. We can do it without regard to partisanship. I know there's a lot of people on the Republican side, the Democratic side, who want to make this stuff work. Come see us. I will listen.
I agree that the child support system has a cookie cutter approach, and I also agree with Nathan that they've been neglected. That office, I recently talked to a lawyer who practices in that before that office every single day, and he talked about how the people are good, but they are just overworked and underpaid, and the systems are poor, they're old. So there needs to be money. There needs to be a cash infusion into the child support system where these people understand that they serve the people and they're happy to come to work. The disparity between the fathers and the mothers won't be completely worked out, but if they have an ability to have systems in place and a leader at the top who has told them that we're impartial, just like the office should be apolitical, you should be impartial, and that's the kind of leader I want to be.
years ago, civil rights organizations and local nonprofits supported about 8 justice-impacted folks from Dallas County Jail and suing the felony and misdemeanor judges here in Dallas County around unconstitutional bail practices. In that lawsuit, the judges were represented by our current general attorney. My question to you all is, in the case where the regular system-impacted folks' rights are being violated, and then you are in charge of defending the judges, how will you hold those two dichotomies in tension and protect the rights of the people who elected you?
So to the extent that it's clear, the Attorney General is responsible for protecting the state. And if there's a situation where the state's judges are being sued, then Attorney General either needs to protect those individuals or needs to find, or outside counsel is going to be appointed. And to the extent that there's a conflict, and conflicts arise all the time in the practice of legal practice. I deal with it on a daily basis. When that arises, then someone needs to take one responsibility and then parse out a judge or a defender for the other side. And so it just depends on, it really is guided by the Constitution. And so to the extent that the Constitution mandates that the Attorney General protects the judges of Dallas, then that's what I do.
One of the frustrations we deal with is that not all injustice is unconstitutional. So there could be a case where the judges are enforcing a constitutional bail system that stinks, that's unfair. Is it unconstitutional? I'll have to exercise my discretion and take the position that, you know what, this is constitutional, and I'm going to call upon the legislature to fix the injustice that's done to it. The Attorney General has a microphone and can do that. Or it really is unconstitutional. And then the Attorney General has to take a position that reflects their true interpretation of the Constitution, and that may or may not be on the side of the judges. But the Attorney General is in a difficult position at times of seeing something that you find bad policy, but it's not illegal. And so that's the call I'll have to make, and I'm not afraid to not side with the state if the state is wrong. But I do have to make that assessment, and some things are going to have to happen when we elect a better legislature, which I hope is soon.
Just being human, we all experience bias that might cloud our judgment. How do you all plan to check your implicit bias to where it does not influence your role as Attorney General?
I think the best reminder of bias is when you put some people in a room who aren't like you and come from different experiences or don't look like you, disagree. And I can tell you there's a moment in my Senate office when a bunch of us were sitting around and we're evaluating the next day's legislation that's about to come out. And I think 4 of us were just like, yeah, this is it, this is it, this is it. And a member of my staff said, as the only Hispanic in the room, I disagree. And he explained his point of view, and 4 of us went, oh, he's right. So I think the best way to check my own biases, and I know I have them, is to surround myself with good people who I respect, who don't come from the same place I come from, who may not even agree with me on things, so that we can examine things from every possible perspective and make sure that we get the right decision together.
Unlike many people in the current government, I do understand that bias exists. It has existed long before I was here, and it will probably exist long after I'm here. I've been in those environments my entire life. I described to you some of my personal experiences. The best way to deal with that is to have you listening here. Understand that biases do exist. A person who has done what I've done has seen some of the things that people are capable of. Understands that everyone brings something different to the table. You have to be a collaborator, and you have to understand and listen. And so when people, of course I'm going to have a very diverse staff. It's going to look a lot different than some of the ideologues in the office now. It's going to be people from every walk of life, every political party, every legal background. And we're all going to talk, and we're going to understand, and when an individual expresses that there's bias in the room, then we're going to address it.
I have a 2-part question for you. Okay, so my question is, what would be your approach of enforcing new interpretations of federal civil rights laws and how they are negatively impacting Texans? And also how we would address current litigation that is being conducted out of that office that may be negatively affecting Texans' civil rights on a state and federal level?
I will interpret civil rights laws liberally to the extent that they protect civil rights. And that's not what's being done. And so, to the extent that voting rights or any other types of civil rights are at stake, it's presumed that we're protecting those rights and not taking those rights away. It's amazing how, in the current environment, people want you to have less rights than what you had previously. I want individuals to have more rights. And how would I address the civil rights litigation that touches on civil rights that's currently coming out of that office? We will assess them vigorously, and many of those actions will go away. They will be dismissed. The actions against voting rights groups, simply because they register individuals to go away, will simply because they register individuals to vote, or any other number of civil rights, they will be discarded immediately.
I'm not sure the current presidential administration believes in civil rights. I think they're optional. And I think once we treat anyone's rights as optional, they become optional for everybody. They shouldn't be optional. Again, we have 23, now 24 Democratic attorneys general in this country. They are going to have to work together on all civil rights fronts. It's going to take a concentrated effort and repeated lawsuits against the Trump administration. I don't think any attorney general runs with the hope of suing the president all the time. But in the current circumstances, it's warranted. Democratic attorneys general have sued the Trump administration 77 times. We've been able to stop 31 of his bad actions that override civil rights and those sorts of things. So I think it's going to have to be a systematic review. When you get into office, look at every impact to piece of litigation that's pending, look at every civil rights infringement that is pending, and make an assessment. Is Paxton doing the job? Conclude, no, he's not, and start doing it. It's going to have to be a systematic effort with concentrated resources applied to it.
I will preface this. I have never met you guys before. So in my question, Roshan, that's okay. Because it'll be honest for you to say, I'll get back with you. The ADA law has been around for 30 years, and so have I. A little bit more. But I've learned as an advocate and the business owner that our rights are often not treated with the same urgency as the rights of others. What metrics would you use in order to protect my community outside of human community? Not in just, oh, we're gonna do it, or we intend, but with actual outcomes.
I think that's when we're in the first few weeks of the office, you have to appoint somebody whose job it is to make sure that they're communicating with you. Because walking into the office, very few of us know exactly what the problems are. We know as legislators, when people come to us, that's when we address issues. Somebody came to me on the issue of rights of Americans with disabilities today, in fact, regarding something Section 504, for getting a lot of familiarity with it, but this has to do with public education. And our current Attorney General is, and several attorneys general around the country are seeking to invalidate that program. Those kinds of things we need to be aware of them, we need to be able to attack them, we need to be systematic. Success will be when I can point to 15 or 20 things that I've done in communication with you that advance your rights, that advance your standing, that make it possible. You've been contributing as a business owner in this state for a long time. I want you to be able to do it because I want you here with us. You have my promise that I'll be there for you.
So one of the things I'll do right away is I will appoint a liaison to all the communities. To the disabled community, I've spoken about this extensively, to the LGBT community, and all the communities that feel like they are not being represented. And individual, a high-level individual within the office that will report directly to me, that will be a liaison to the community. That individual will report to me on the cases that have been reported and the outcome of that cases on a regular basis. I take that very, very seriously. I understand that there are communities that are left behind and neglected, and your community is one of them, and there are many others that just are not paid attention to in this current environment, and I plan to do that. I plan to pay attention to each and every community, including the community, and we will keep metrics as well.
Unquestionable. The AG represents Texas in environmental cases and enforcing environmental laws. This involves balancing environmental protection with economic development and fighting federal overreach. What do you think the role of the AG is when it comes to environmental cases, and what should Texas challenge? When should Texas challenge federal environmental regulations that may hurt businesses in Texas?
It's really simple. The role of the AG is to protect the citizens. And to the extent that a business is contaminating water or polluting the environment, and it can be proven after a robust investigation, not the type of proactive sending out of letters and lawsuits of individuals that sometimes we see, then the Attorney General sues on that behalf. And so what is my position in terms of balancing between a business and the government? There is no real balance. What's constitutional? What should the Attorney General really be doing? If this particular business is harming the citizens of Texas, then I will side on the side of the people of Texas each and every time. To the extent that means suing or sending a letter to say you're violating environmental laws and you will be sued, then it just depends on the situation. But in every case, I'm going to take the side of the citizens and not the side of the businesses that are actually harming the citizens.
Primary environmental enforcement authority lies with the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. The Attorney General actually works with the TCEQ. Now, the TCEQ is understaffed. They could use some resources from the Attorney General's office. The Attorney General does have power to enforce some federal environmental laws. What our Attorney General has done, along with other state attorneys general, is sue the federal government to invalidate environmental laws. Donald Trump has pretty much stripped most of them away, so there won't be a whole lot to invalidate in the future. But I would definitely not allow any industry to co-opt government, to co-opt the Attorney General's office to protect them. I would work with the TCEQ, much as I have as a legislator. I passed the only clean air legislation in Texas in 10 years, clean soil, clean water, renewable energy, and higher penalties for polluters as a legislator. I would take that same approach to the Attorney General's office and do everything in my power to make sure that we don't have environmental injustice, which we have right now, as well as in general environmental contamination.
My question is to both of the panelists, twofold. First one is, what would you do about Sandbridge, the town that hasn't had water in, I think, over maybe 50 years, and now that it's unincorporated, but it is an environmental injustice, and these people are living like in a third world country, and there's a water source right across the street. So as far as dealing with that, and then the second part is that, well, my first one would be about Sandbridge. How would you, both of you gentlemen, handle Sandbridge and those citizens out there who are voters that don't have water?
And I want to be sure I never promise anything that I cannot deliver. The Attorney General is not going to have jurisdiction to go in there and set policy with respect to Sandbridge. So there will be places where the Attorney General can be helpful, but that I'll just have to learn on the fly with you. I know about Sandbridge. I know it's been a really big challenge on a local governmental level, on a state governmental level, on a national. Biden administration is trying to work with the state a little bit, but that's gone. So it is something that needs a lot of attention from a lot of people. I've met with people from Sandbridge. I don't know what the AG can do. If there's something I can do, I will be happy to help.
So the Attorney General's role is to protect the Constitution and defend against constitutional violations. To the extent that there are such constitutional violations, I will be more than happy to stand in. I am not aware that there are actual constitutional violations in Sandbridge. But to the extent that it's violating the Texas Constitution, I'm not saying that it is not, but we will evaluate every situation. I'm not saying that we're going to be closed-minded to anything. But once I mentioned earlier, we're going to do a top-to-bottom review of every action taken to the extent that it's been neglected by the Attorney General's office. And there's been valid complaints made that said people's constitutional rights are being violated, then we'll take a look at it. And just like Nathan, I don't want to promise that we'll do this or that without, having some more information or knowing what the Attorney General has done in the past or what complaints are there. But we will for sure take a look.
All right. Again, time flies when we're having fun. I see that you have an interest in AG. So we'll have an opportunity to continue that interest as these young men begin to formulate their 1 minute closing, what they're going to say. And remember to let people know how to be in contact with your campaign. So we'll begin with you for your 1 minute closing.
I will start off by telling you how you can get in contact with my campaign. My campaign website is TonyBox, TonyBox, for Texas.com, and all my socials are the same. So that's how you can get in contact with me. We have numerous volunteers. We have opportunities to help the campaign, and we're always looking for help. So I'll tell you, I was in church yesterday and briefly talked to the congregation, and one of the things I said was, in terms of why I'm running, I want to be a blessing to others. I've been really blessed in my life, immensely blessed. I want to serve the people of Texas. I've served, and this is an opportunity for me to continue to serve. I don't have to. This job is a very, very significant job where an individual needs to understand people. You don't need to be trying to climb some political ladder. I have no such desire to climb a political ladder. I want to be a man of service. I want to keep the commitment I made to God many, many years ago, and that is why I'm running for Attorney General. And I would ask that you would consider this.
Thank you for being here tonight and your interest in this. We got one shot at this. You need two things in your candidate, in your nominee. Can they beat the Republicans in November? And can they deliver while they're in office? And I never won a statewide seat, but I have filled a 30-year Republican seat for the state Senate. And I have delivered while I'm in office. And when we get down to November, the Republican machine is going to have tens of millions of dollars. All this stuff we're talking about today that's super important to every single one of us is idle chit-chat if we don't win that race. I would like your help winning this race. I think I can beat these guys. I think it's going to be fun because I've already done it and it is fun going up against them and I know how to pick my opponents. And let me tell you, that field of AG candidates on the Republican side is going to be fun. Nathan for Texas is all my social media handles. You can reach my campaign, nathanfortexas.com. Let's release this in November and do all the things we're talking about here today.
Thank you, Jody. All right, guys, we prepare for our next set of candidates. You will be able to see tonight's form on the Dallas Examiner website tomorrow. You can log in, you'll be able to see tonight's form. Again, no photography, no filming. As we prepare for our next race, we are up for Judge County Criminal Court Appeal number 1. Ms. Rose, 2 minutes over.
Good evening. Good evening. I am Ani Ann Grooms, and I have known since I was a little girl, putting on my mother's bathrobe and banging her one high heel shoe on the table that I wanted to be a judge, using that shoe as a gavel, of course. And I've always wanted to be the solution to a problem. And that's why I'm running for County Criminal Court of Appeals number 1. This is a mental health diversion court. It is an appeals court for the municipal court. It handles the competency docket. It also has the capacity to be a misdemeanor trial court. This basically is something that I want to expand. I am not coming in wanting to change anything anything other than the fact that I want to expand the mental health services that already exist. I would like to start a more comprehensive mental health program for the community that will be called Thrive. I'm a former educator, a special education teacher, and those qualities, being a teacher, translate directly into this role, being an advocate for special education, being one of the stakeholders at the table is the same thing that goes on in mental health court. You are there to make sure that everyone is being handled fairly, making sure that the service providers there are not using implicit bias against any one defendant. Part of the reason why I am running, I am currently a criminal defense attorney, and a lot of my clients are repeat offenders. Over and over, they're coming back without being evaluated for mental health because they're waiting on their case to be filed. They're waiting. My time is up.
All right, good evening, everyone. Buenas noches. My name is Alexandra Vio, and I'm running for Dallas County Criminal Court of Appeals number 1. This is a misdemeanor bench in the criminal courthouse, and it will hear municipal appeals or Class C appeals. These appeals have the option of having a brand new trial, or the judge can issue a written opinion. With these two options, experience really matters. And hello to everyone up there, I don't think y'all have forgotten. So I bring 12 years of criminal law experience. I've been a prosecutor for 10 years and a criminal defense attorney for 2 years, covering all of North Texas. I've handled cases ranging all the way from Class C's to federal cases to capital murder cases. I've had over 40 jury trials and have handled hundreds of courtroom hearings. This court also handles mental health programs. These programs provide mental health resources, wraparound services in an effort to turn around clients' lives, stabilize their lives, and get them out of the criminal justice system. In the past 2 years, I've been in the mental health division, so I know firsthand how these programs run, how they function, and just how successful they are in these client lives and for our community. I'm also running because of the recent attacks on our judicial system. When our public loses faith in our court system, it not only undermines our legal laws, but democracy itself. And as a former dreamer and the first attorney in my family, I know what it means to fight for dignity and for fairness. And in times like these, we need leaders with lived experiences and courage to help rebuild that trust between our communities and our court system. I'm confident that I have the professional experiences and the lived experiences to step onto that bench on day one and hit the ground running. Thank you guys so much.
My first question, some appeals sit for months or even years before being decided. Meanwhile, people's lives are on hold, fines, unpaid, licenses suspended, uncertainty unresolved. What will you do to move cases faster without sacrificing quality?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So one of the things that I really want to focus on is just efficiency between ensuring that process between getting all the court documents from the municipal level, the court level from the Class C's is a lot faster to get it all the way up to our system. So I think it might have been Judge King who had spoken about it, and she did such a great job. We are transitioning to a very different system, which anyone who works in the court system knows. That is a big undertaking. So I want to make sure that our clerks are working great between that municipal level and our county level to make sure that that's fast, that it's efficient, and because we want to make sure also that there's an appeals bond, and that's expensive. So if there's a way that we can also expedite a waiver for those who are indigent, we want to make sure that that's also not an extra step that might slow down the process for those who can't afford an appeals bond as well.
Being present and making sure that everyone has access to the court will help things go a lot quicker. I've been a prosecutor, and I get to tell you guys my history. I'm a former prosecutor. I've started the mental health diversion. I'm sorry, not the mental health diversion. The satellite offices for victims of family violence, in addition to the homeless diversion court program. I have experience starting initiatives, being someone that knows how to fill the gaps is what I excel in, and serving. And so being present in the court, making sure that if someone wants a TBC, a trial before the court, if they want a jury trial, making sure that I am available for that to happen. During the time that I was at the courthouse, I can tell you that I've probably tried more cases in my career than I've actually seen the appeals actually happen in this particular court. So I would basically make sure that I'm accessible so that can happen.
Next question. Sometimes an appellate judge notices that one particular JP court keeps making the same legal mistakes over and over. You can reverse those individual cases, but the pattern, you reverse those, or you can reverse those cases, but the pattern continues. What can you do, if anything, besides reversing those errors to correct that?
Communication is everything, guys. Some judges, again, we are an appeals court, this particular court, an appeals court for the municipal court, even though the question was for JP courts. If a judge continues to be overturned, despite the appellate process, you can pick up the phone and talk to them and call them, but each judge has deference over what they're doing. We don't supervise the judges. We are there to interpret the law and make decisions based off of the court record. You guys can see that I'm a first-time candidate, and this takes a lot of courage to be up here. And I am that anything required for this court supersedes my experience. I have been a prosecutor for over a decade. I have traveled the world doing complex commercial litigation. I was assigned to Africa and Asia, and I was on the biggest criminal case in U.S. history. So I basically have a lot to offer, and I can't wait for you to learn all about it.
That's a really great question. I do believe that communication is key. Also, elections, allowing everyone to know what's happening. One of my biggest idols, though, is Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and there's nothing better than a great and bitter opinion to be written, right? And those opinions are public to see. And so if we have JP judges who aren't upholding the law, who aren't protecting our community, aren't protecting our clients, then it is up to a judge to hold that person accountable. And I have no problem writing an opinion who is going to hold that person accountable, because it's not going to be a bitter dissent, it's going to be an opinion.
All right, now we're going to receive questions from the audience. If you have a question, please come forward.
All right. Good evening. Thank you both for putting yourself up for public service. I know about the challenges that come with it. My question is this. What community partners such as MetroCare do you plan to bring to the table if you're elected to be able to provide support to those who come to your court?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in the past 2 years that I've worked in the mental health division, the main partner that we do work with is MetroCare, but we've worked with IPS, we've worked with various partners. Even if we have a client that is outside the county, I've worked, I think it's like Lakeside and Hunt County. So I would say we don't rule anyone out. It's mainly going to be client-based and what's going to benefit that client the best. So where they live close to, or where their support is, or if they actually have a medical provider. For the actual programs themselves in that court right now, it is MetroCare, but there is a case-by-case basis, because what we want is success for each and every individual. because success for that individual is success for their families and success for the community. The success in our programs, we've seen a 15 to 20% recidivism rate, where the national average is 50 to 70%. So we want success overall for everyone.
Is that better? All right. So we know that early intervention basically deters future crime, right? Recidivism. Just like my opponent just suggested, it's very important that our service providers are aware of the program, which is why I want to start a more comprehensive community mental health program that I've titled Thrive, and showing the community how serious I am. I've already gotten the partnership with C.D. Lamb to make sure that that community partnership and that program, Thrive, educates our community in addition to service providers, including others that even work for MetroCare. Because even though MetroCare is a current provider of the court, I have been out here talking to voters, talking to people that work for MetroCare, and they're not even aware of the services that are offered in this court, and that's a problem. And because I have an education background, I would like to not only educate the public, but educate service providers on the availability that exists in this court.
I wonder if you have any aspiration or thought of working with the local PD, as far as maybe partnering with them for training. I've seen a lot of mental health arrests go bad, that if they knew how to, calm them down like I do, it may not have had to go that way in the law, but I understand it's knowledge, if you want to call it knowledge. But what would you do in that perspective?
Right. Thank you for that. That's an excellent question and a great point, because a lot of officers are risking their lives in mental health situations. I've seen situations where they've had to saran wrap naked individuals, or just to prevent from being spit on and things like that. They're trying to protect themselves, and our loved ones get injured. The people that are suffering the most, these people are the most vulnerable, and so they do need officers that are educated, they need attorneys that are educated, which is why, as part of that community program with Thrive, it would include garnering more support from the community and more service providers and helping police officers understand more situations. I know before my time, there was a lot of different locations in the community where officers were trained to take people suffering from mental health crisis first before they went to Lew Sterrett. But that is no longer, because it's no longer funded publicly, it's been privatized. And a lot of things have been closed that we need to basically get more funding for.
Thank you so much for your question. That's fantastic. So I have already done training in the past 2 years. We've started it with just a few agencies, but we definitely want it to grow with Dallas PD, with Irving, and with Grand Prairie, because we definitely want our police officers on both ends for the individuals who call for help, as well as for the police officers on their end for safety. And so what we do is we talk through, one, the programs that we have, as well as the types of calls that they may get. So we talk about the different types of mental health illnesses, what they might look like, and how they may approach a call like that. Because we do want everyone to remain safe. And if for some instance they do have to make an arrest, we want them to know, and we want their family members to know, hey, there are programs here at the courthouse available for their family members. Because sometimes they call for help for medical reasons, but they still have to make an arrest. But we do, and I have done trainings with agencies. So great question.
I echo Casey and commending you both for your courage to run. My question is more around relationships. We know that Dallas County Jail is currently up for a $5 million new jail. That's a lot of resources that can be allocated to mental health and some of the resources you all could be armed with to deter crime. So a lot of that money is allocated by the county commissioner's office, the purse. So what relationships or political power do you have to help move some of those resources to your discretion?
So great question again, which is, yes. So we have actually worked, I personally worked with John Wiley Price, Commissioner Summerman, Elba Garcia, and Teresa Daniel, and specifically we just got funded because, as we all know, the federal government has cut severely our funding for mental health specifically. So they have generously stepped in so that we can continue these programs. And I say that to say because we will be able to stop that cycle of in and out, right? If we don't provide these fundings, then an individual will continue to cycle in and out in jail, which that is expensive. You know, if that capacity at jail is full, it's $20 million per month. That's a lot for all of us here, right? So when we can provide those programs, we're saving taxpayer dollars, we're reducing recidivism, I personally have those relationships, and we're also allowing police officers to take those high priority calls rather than to go back and take those calls. So it just is a generous program overall, but I do have those relationships.
Being a special prosecutor to Faith Johnson when she was DA, I did have the opportunity to build relationships with the sheriff and other stakeholders and leaders in the city. But it's also important to note that I have experience managing huge budgets, getting relationships, just like with Thrive and CD Lamb. It is important for us to understand that we need someone to step out of the norm and actually want to expand what already exists and get those partnerships, get that funding, because we are in a crisis situation right now. We don't know what the future holds with funding, and we need to inform the public that there is this court that exists, the need that exists, and the help will come. All right, guys. Like I said,
It's coming. It's coming. All right. So the appeals from municipal courts often may have missing information or transcript of what was said, the evidence, but you still have to decide the case based on what's in the record. When the record is incomplete and you can't tell really what happened at trial, how do you decide?
Because I have to go by what is written and what is in that record, then I will have to rule according to what is in that record. It's really that simple.
I bring 12 years of criminal law experience. I've retried cases, so if anyone hears a trial attorney, it's almost like hearing your own voice on a recording. There's nothing worse than having to read your own trial transcript. But I do know that having a transcript, reading it over, that's extremely important. There's a lot of details in that transcript. There's a lot of details when you go through that. So sometimes when you don't think you have enough, there is a lot of details within every single piece of paper that is brought up through an appeal. So I do want to let everyone know that experience really does matter when it comes to these appeals, but it's also extremely important to know that a judge, at the end of the day, is going to have to follow the law with what you're given and make a ruling. It might be a tough call, but at the end of the day, what you have, the facts and the law, if it's a tough call, you're going to have to make a ruling.
Over this question has been asked or stated. If elected, what are your top 3 priorities for this court?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first one is just to maintain funding for the mental health programs. Unfortunately, the federal government has just stopped a lot of the funding. That can be done with partnerships with the city and with the county, but there are also grants outside that the district attorney's office and the public defender's office and other partnerships have already worked on. While I've been working started and I want to continue, so that's priority number one. Housing is the second priority, just to increase housing for the individuals when we have them in the program. There's some bureaucracy and red tape that I want to make sure we take out of that to make sure that we can get housing for individuals in the program. And the third one is just to increase the efficiency with the caseloads. The mental health cases are spread around in the different courts. I want to take those cases out of those courts, alleviate the caseloads from the other judges. I see some nodding going on, yes. So just to be able to provide more efficiency and also increase the trials for the municipal cases.
The three top priorities that I would like to implement, you guys have already heard one with RISE, with educating the community, focusing more, not just on intervention, but prevention. So we can get ahead of the crime and stop the recidivism. Because like I said, my clients are not even reaching the mental health diversion program because they're taking pleas before the cases are even filed. So they're just recycling through the system. So we need to focus just as much as we do on prevention as we do intervention and diversion. Also, I would like to support all of the other misdemeanor courts by accepting some of those trial cases, and I believe that it's possible, even though with mental health, you do need to be focused and pay attention to each individual's situation. There is still time to handle a misdemeanor docket.
All right, again, you'll be able to see tonight's forum tomorrow, DallasExaminer.com, where you'll be able to view tonight's and previous forum. So as our candidates formulate their 1 minute closing, I'll give them time to reset. Again, no cameras, no videos, and with that, we'll have our 1 minute closing.
All right, guys, I'm Ani Ann Groves, and I'm asking you to vote for me to change, not to keep what is already in place, but to expand and make it better and bring mental health services to our community and other communities that it has not reached. I want to focus, like I said, on prevention and getting in front of things, not just intervention. I want you all to know that, like I said, there's nothing that supersedes my experience in this particular court. I have handled writing multiple briefs because of the case that I worked on that I told you guys about, where I traveled the world. I had to make sure that those briefs were in order for Congress, and not just Congress, but for the federal court as well. In addition to mental health diversion, this court also handles competency, and also, okay, you can reach me at AniGroves4Judge.com. That's number 4.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, thank you so much for being here. Again, I think experience really matters in this court. It matters for the clients, it matters for the attorneys, and it matters for the community. I bring 12 years of criminal law experience, 10 years as a prosecutor, 3 years as a criminal defense attorney, handling anything from Class C's to federal work to capital murder cases. I have tons of courtroom experience. Almost on a daily basis, I'm in the courtroom, and I think that matters for the appellate work that's needed and handled in this court. Again, I've been in the mental health division, so I know firsthand how these programs run, and I have the network and the community that's needed to help these vulnerable clients. And we need to protect the clients that are handled in this court. And again, I'm running to just make sure that we protect our courts and the communities and make sure that I have the lived experiences. As a former dreamer and the first attorney in my family, I know what it means to fight for fairness. You can go to alexandraforjustice.com if you have any questions. Thank you guys so much. Gracias a todos.
Great. As they are leaving to prepare for our next race, just want to reiterate a couple things to you. Today's the last day to register to vote. I know everybody's going to register, correct? Good. All right. So with that being said, please continue to check your registration to vote. As our lovely governor has turned over all of our voter registration information to the Department of Justice, that was done for a reason. So please continue to check your registration up until the time you're ready to vote. And also, most importantly, we're here today as a service to the community. And just like our ancestors did in the time past when we were restricted from learning, we still got information out. The importance of African American newspapers and news agencies is at an all-time high right now, along with our churches. We must be able to get our message out, as we are seeing that day by day, those options are being censored and through social media. So it's important that we continue to support our African American newspapers, such as the Dallas Examiner and others, so that we can continue to get our message out to our community. So with that, we'll begin with our next race, our county clerk race. First, Anne Marie Cruz. Second will be Tony Grimes. Third will be DeMarcus Beverly. So again, we do ask and invite all candidates to appear. So we will go in this order. Grimes will be first for a 2-minute opening.
Good evening. I am Tony Grimes. I am the candidate for Dallas County Clerk. I've been president of the Irving NAACP for over 20 years. I'm running for this position because of my experience in corporate America, in leadership, and handling large budgets. Own a couple of businesses. Most of you know me as a photographer, Tony Grimes Photography. I also own a real estate development company, and so in my business and professional worlds, I've managed large budgets, managed a lot of people, and in my personal life as president of NAACP, I've served the community and served the community well. I like to serve the people of Dallas County and the Dallas County Clerk. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is DeMarcus Alfred. I'm running for Dallas County Clerk. A little bit myself, I'm married to my beautiful wife who's here tonight, and I have 3 beautiful children, as well as also thank to my church members who are here tonight and my family who's here tonight as well. But one reason I'm running, I started off, I grew up in South Dallas, Dixon Circle to be exact, graduated from Lincoln High School. I've been active and engaged in this community, not just as a community member, but actually doing the work and involved with Dallas County Democratic Party since I've been 13 years old. One of the things is I started out as a Dallas County District Clerk's Office at the Civil File Desk, working my way up to the Magistrate Court. After the Magistrate Court, I worked at the Dallas County Juvenile Department. From Dallas County Juvenile Department, I then worked at the City of Dallas and the Mayor City Council Department. From there, I worked at Congressman Ada Bernice Johnson for 3 terms. That's the director of our region and one of her top senior staffers. And from there, in front of her retirement and her passing, I went over to Dallas ISD where I led in government relations. And now I work at a transit agency, one of the largest in the state of Texas here, leading state relations for DART. One reason I'm running because I also have the support of the current retired clerk, Mr. John Warren. He's been instrumental in changing county government in terms of the county clerk office, being very innovative in technology. And I want to continue that legacy of work, but also making sure we're accessible, accountable, and efficient to the community that we serve.
Thank you. The county clerk's office is where government meets people in their real lives. Getting married, birth certificate, dealing with court records, for most people, is one of their few direct interactions with county government. What's your vision for how people should feel when they leave the county clerk's office?
mentioned, I think people should feel, one, feel heard, and two, feel accessibility to the office. And two, education about what the office actually do. A lot of people don't know that the county clerk has 11 misdemeanor courts, 2 county court of appeals, 5 county court of laws, 3 probate courts, and also manages vital records, which means death certificates, birth certificates, marriage license. And I think that one of the things that we have to look at is accessibility. Who are the people who are using the office? How do they get to the office? What issues they're having to get to the office? This one, a part of our platform is creating a virtual clerk's office. So one, it's accessible, easy, and at the fingertips of everyone who comes into contact with the county clerk's office.
The county clerk's office is where government meets people in real lives, getting married, getting a birth certificate, dealing with court records. For most people, it's one of their few direct interactions with county government. What's your vision for how people should feel when they leave the county clerk's office?
My goal will be for everybody to leave the county clerk's office as they've had a positive experience. That everything that they accomplished while they were there, that they leave being pleased with what our services were, how we provided the services, the good customer service, and that everything that they came in to accomplish that they did, and that we, as the Dallas County Clerk's Office, that we did it well. My goal would be to make sure that we have a good staff. John Warren did a really good job. But I think that I can do some things to enhance what he did to make it a better department. And I plan to do that by honoring the staff in a major way and making sure that they are pleased with the services and how they're going to report. Thank you.
Dallas County includes wealthy suburbs and struggling neighborhoods. Sometimes government services are better in some communities than others. Shorter wait times, often said some may say more helpful staff, better hours. How would you ensure that someone in South Dallas or Southern Dallas gets the same quality service as someone in Northern Dallas?
I want to have an eye open and my ears open to listen to the public to make sure that the services that are provided across the board are equal, and if they're 100% in South Dallas, or even better in South Dallas, I can do that. But I want to make sure that at least the services are equal to everybody, whether you're in North Dallas, South Dallas, Irving, or wherever you may live. There's an opportunity for me as a customer service person to make sure that everybody is served well, and that our offices are really receptive and respectful of our community. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, let me repeat that question.
Yes. Dallas County includes wealthy suburbs and struggling neighborhoods. Sometimes government services are better in some communities than others. Shorter waits, careful staff, better hours. How would you ensure that someone in Southern Dallas gets the same quality of service as someone in Northern Dallas?
I think it's a great question. I think one of the things is accessibility when you come talk about the county clerk's office. How do people get to and from work? Most people take DART, meet, going to South Dallas, we're going a lot. I think a lot of people don't have access to vehicles, so we have to rely on public transportation. The second thing is access to internet. We have right now an issue going on with a lot of our libraries on attack in terms of how do we finish that divide. But the issue is that making the county clerk office virtual and accessible, so that people can go to a public library or public system to access those type of services they need instead of coming downtown. Another thing is that a lot of people don't know that the city of Dallas is really the only city within out of the 30 plus cities in Dallas County that does their own vital records. The only city in Dallas. See, a lot of people pay money, pick up DART pads, drive down, pay to get upstairs, and then they get told you have to go somewhere else. Those is why it's very important that we talk about these things and educate the education piece, the education people on why these things are important, but also create an accessibility piece to the office. People have to have an office that's accessible, that's accountable, and I tell you one thing that Mr. Warren's office staff has done that is led in their charge. So we're going to take that to the next level if elected.
Thank you. Right now, to a part where questions from the audience. So if you have a question, please come to my right, ask your question.
All right, so you mentioned accessibility of the office, but specifically, how do you go about educating the community about the role of the county clerk's office?
I think that's a good question. I think one of the things is that what Mr. Warren and his staff has actually done is go into whether it be the urban leagues, local organizations, HOA neighborhoods within the community, and meeting people where they are. That's what accessibility is all about. How do we, one, inform people, two, educate people, and three, make them understand, not tell them how to file people, but educate people. Because this office, it might not be sexy, it might not be popular, but it's very important. You're talking about the most critical role in Dallas County. And one of the things is identifying what we can do within the realms of Dallas County government to make the office successful, and having the staff to go out and educate, including myself, to make sure that the office is successful, and also educate them on the role in which this office is actually all about. I think a lot of people, some may assume they know what the office is, some may not. But I think as we educate people on how important these roles are and what these offices actually do and how we can deliver for them and for the community, and that this is how the court systems, those attorneys in the legal community, the two biggest customers for Dallas County Clerk's office is the legal community as well as the business community, the real estate community.
The role of the Dallas County Clerk is very important and vital to our community. What I plan to do is make sure that I will visit in the community and see you face to face. If you belong to an organization, I'd like you to send me an invitation. I'm gonna have an open door policy so you can call me, and we'll be able to monitor your phone calls and make sure that you're heard. That we'll listen to what your concerns are, and then we'll address you and to make sure that you know exactly what our officers do. Like I said, anytime that there's an issue or concern, the door's going to be open to you. We'd like to hear from you.
Hi, good evening. So one question I do have is, I do think that sometimes not all constituents know what services, whether state, federal, local, what the government actually can do for them. So if each of you could speak to their experience, I think obviously the current county clerk has done an amazing job, and I'd like to see where the two of you are looking to take the office in terms of the constituent education component.
So, similar question to the one previous to that, I want to take it to the community. I want to make sure that I'm out visiting with everybody, whatever the organization is, as long as it can fit into my schedule. You'll also be able to access my offices by our internet and website, by email. We're going to make sure that we hear from our community and that you know what the services are that we provide.
Thanks for that question. I think one of the first things, my experience has been working in government relations at transit agency, and having been in high level conversations about policy. I think one of the things is the main thing we need to make sure we have relationships. The second thing is that everybody don't have access to internet. Some people don't have access to some of the technology that you can use. The third thing is starting a group of external stakeholders to track technology trends. The second thing is to also have a group of individuals in whether it's real estate community, the legal community, advising the county clerk on things that we can work on, what we can improve on, what's better, what's not working, and that's how we be improved. Whether that be people in the community, folks that's inside, but one of the things people have to understand is that the largest customers are the legal community, our community, as well as the real estate community. And the county clerk is the top. Everywhere property is, you have to own a house, property deeds, all those things are important because the county clerk office handles those things. And I don't know if I have time, but we can also talk about Senate Bill 16, which deals with property deed fraud. That's very important as well to discuss as well.
My question is, and also for the ladies up top. So like when you have an elder, and you spoke on the subject about technology and everything, so like you have an elder that does not live in this county or anything, or the state, and they live somewhere else and they're trying to get a birth certificate and they're having a hard time
will somebody be able to assist them to get their birth certificate, especially like they don't have access to the internet, you know? Are they still fighting? Because sometimes you see on the news, like, somebody is having a hard time, so like, can that situation be stopped before they go to the news?
Once I understand the question is, I think the first thing is this: when we're talking about a virtual clerk's office, even if a person has moved out of the county or moved into another state, the thing is about access. Can they access their documents? Can they access their property in terms of their?
I was saying, like, you know, you have some elders that may have lived somewhere else and they are having a hard time getting a birth certificate from another state. You know, like they may have lost it in a house fire, and if they're trying to go here and knowing that you can't go here, but it's someone in Dallas County.
Well, I can tell you that for one day one, most staff when they call, they can educate them on what the process is, and then all that's just their birth certificate, being that it's only statutory in Dallas County only. But if it's another state, I'm sure they can walk them through the number to call, who to talk to in the state. And that's when we talk about access and making sure staff also know, because staff when it comes to stuff like that, yeah, because people get calls when I work for Congressman Johnson about things like that. Some people, they live in Dallas County, some live in Ellis County. But things, make sure we connect them to the right people, even if their issue is not in our office. That's very important.
But for me, that would be about making sure that my staff is aware of how to handle those calls and situations when those calls come in. And I'll make sure that they're aware of that and knowledgeable about that. So what we'll do is the best we can as your Dallas County clerk in our office to make sure that those situations with elderly or those that have accessibility issues are taken care of.
Man, that was some really good questions, because exactly what I was about to ask you. So come up with another question. So let me just kind of piggyback on what you all talked about in terms of for the elderly residents that may not necessarily have technology or the access to it. So when we think about efficiency, what services that you provide must always have an in-person option, and what can be fully integrated online?
For the most part, most of it is in person, and I'm not exactly sure as to the percentage of that number. But what I'll make sure that we do is once I'm elected, I'll be able to make sure that the access that we promise and have for you is taken care of, that we are making sure that everybody that has an issue is addressed and that we can get to you some type of way. We'll make sure that you can get to our office so that we can hear your complaint or your concern. I'm a worker and a doer. Not going to be big on talking and making sure that you, sorry about that. So stay away from that. But what I want to do is get the job done. So trust me, as your Dallas County clerk, I'll make sure that we're taking care of you and responsible and accountable to the public. Thank you.
One of the things is if you talk about accessibility and talk about what can be done online, I think as a county clerk role is to support the courts and also the control of also important works in Dallas County. I think the main thing is too is as we transition to new technology, as COVID hit, COVID changed how court is being conducted, how police people are accepted online, how judges turn to conduct their cases and their dockets. I think those are some things to talk about. I think as far as it relates to what should be online, what should be online. I think that's when we talk about the virtual clerk's office, to make sure that things are accessible, like birth certificates and things like that, to make sure people can access those type of things. But in terms of the courts and making decisions for the courts, that's up to the judge in terms of making those, how they want to operate their courts in terms of virtual option and in person. The second thing is Senate Bill 16. People should learn what Senate Bill 16 actually is, which is championed by Senator Royce West, Representative Chief. Those things are very important. People are getting their property stored right under their nose. The second thing is making sure that the general public know they have options to be educated, to be updated on those things, and brought up on those type of issues.
All right. So we talked about accessibility, how people are able to access. But the county clerk's office operates 8 to 5, Monday to Friday. That means working people have to take off, lose wages, juggle schedules just to get a birth certificate marriage license? That's the question. Should the county clerk offer evening or weekend hours? If yes, how would you fund it? If no, what alternatives would you provide for people who can't come during business hours?
You trying to get me caught up? Let me just say this. I think at the end of the day, all options should be on the table. And you assess things, how much it costs, what their budget is, and how much, what the impact is as far as the office on staff. Because at the end of the day, people who work in the county clerk office also have families as well too. Some are parents, some are mothers, some are single mothers, some are single fathers. So those are things to look at. I think other things is maybe looking at some part of some of the JPs around in some of the areas across Dallas County. So I think that's not something we can make in terms of saying that I have all the answers and I have the blue book to answer that. But at the end of the day, that's something that we can also discuss and talk about and look at a way to better how we address those type of things so people can have access to the office, whether it be extended or on weekends. But that's something we can look into and talk about and discuss. But as far as making a commitment right now, I won't do that because I don't want myself to much trouble. For sure, but that's something to think about as well, for sure.
So my goal would be not to increase the budget of the Dallas County Clerk's Office by necessarily opening on weekends. I think that we can provide the proper information and education to everybody, that they'll be able to come in and we can officially handle their situation or their case so that they're not taking much time off from work. Like Margaret said, they're employees of Dallas County. They have lives and families, lives to live in their family as well. So my goal would be to make sure that we're operating efficiently so that everybody that walks in or has an issue, even if it's through a phone call, that we can give them the proper information and education so that when they come to our office, they're not spending their entire day there. Thank you.
Okay, remain standing. All right, with that, as you can see, the hope is that each and every one of you all will leave this event tonight knowing something just a little bit more about the county clerk's office and how they function and just how important this office is as these gentlemen or individuals that are running for this seat as they begin to prepare their 1 minute closing. So we'll again reiterate the importance of this office. So we'll begin with our 1 minute closing.
So the importance of this office is very, very high and it's very esteemed. It's beside the Dallas County judges and the Commissioners Court, it's the next top priority job. You've got to hire somebody in this position or elect somebody that has the experience to run the office well and efficient. I've been the president of OACP for over 20 years. I've been with the Rosewood Corporations for over 15 years managing their budgets and their finances and their facilities. So I come to you with experience to make sure that everything that needs to be accomplished is in the Dallas County Clerk's office is done well and done very efficiently. Thank you. Grimes@DallasCounty.com. Tony@DallasCounty.com is my email address, my phone number. Write it down. Record it. 214-315-3151. Please reach out to me if you have any questions or concerns. Thank you.
First of all, thank you all for coming out tonight. I think the one thing about when it comes out of these races, who's accessible to the community. People talk about their budget experience. This is great. I sit on large boards as well too and manage $15 to $20 budgets. It's on the Dallas Breakfast Board, a lot of organizations. I think the main thing is who can get the job done on day one, who have the relationships with those department heads. We've been endorsed by over 125 current and former elected officials, but that's not important. What's important is endorsement with people. We're going to build brick by brick. We're going to educate the public about this office, bring new excitement to this race about this office, how important this office is, how it affects everyday people. Because at the end of the day, it's about getting our young people involved. When we get past primary, the real work begins. I think people have to understand what these people do in these roles, every single role, whether it be the district clerk office, the county clerk office, tax collector and assessor, the county treasurer, the commissioner's court. We have to understand these things belong to the people, and that the people that we elect, we must hold them accountable. because accessibility is important in today's times. And I'm not looking for retirement here because I do pretty well at my job now, but I'm looking to take the office to the next level because Mr. Warren's done a great job in that office. So my name is DeMarcus Alford. You can follow me at www.demarcusalford.com or DeMarcus Alford for Dallas. My number is 972-399-6162. 972-399-6162.
Thank you, Jim. All right, moving right along. Our next race, Justice of the Peace, Precinct 1, Place 1. First we have Thomas G. Jones, followed by Diane Gibson, followed by Brandon J. Bennett. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll begin with our 2-minute opening. Judge Jones, you first.
Good evening. I am Thomas G. Jones, Justice of the Peace of Precinct. Again, I am Thomas G. Jones, Justice of the Peace of Precinct 1, Place 1, where I have the opportunity to serve with my mentor, Judge Vanessa Nash, and the finest constable, the best constable in Dallas County, the best constable. I have been a public servant for more than half of my life. I served 5 years in the Dallas School. I've been in this position here as Justice of the Peace for some 32 years. I am proud of that, but I would be remiss if I don't pause just a little while. And I also take I'm a member of St. Louis Community United Methodist Church. And the Good News Sunday School class there, they have me back tonight. But service is not just what I do, it's who I am. In 2024, we adjudicate more than 36,000 cases, the highest volume in Dallas County. But justice should not be determined just by numbers by themselves. I believe that the courtroom should not be viewed as the end of the road, but the beginning of hope. I believe, and that's why we created in our court the mechanism where out of the 10,000 evictions that were filed in 2024, just in Precinct 1, Place 1, that I believe then that people need the opportunity to start over. That's why we brought the community agencies together. I do believe that when people leave our court, they just don't leave, but they leave with support. They leave with options. They leave with dignity. Because I believe that justice without compassion is incomplete. I bring real experience, some 32 years to this age. I bring real resources to this office. And I have to hand over right now. Thank you.
Hi, now I'm not going to hold the mic close to my mouth because I got a big mouth. And so that's going to echo and I don't want to hurt your eardrums here. But my name is Diane Gibson. I'm running for justice. Thank you. I'm running for Justice of the Peace, Precinct 1, Place 1. First of all, let me say thank you all for being here. I am a social worker by trade. I just retired from Dallas County Criminal Justice Court for County Criminal Court Number 1, Judge Marilyn Mays. In addition to that, I just retired from the City of Dallas City Attorney's Office, where I was the first Chief Deputy of a division within the City Attorney's Office that did not have a bar card. But guess what? We took community court from 1 court to 7 courts, a night court, a specialty court, a drug court, a veterans court. Then we did a prostitution diversion initiative. And guess what? Under the leadership of Diane, and guess what? I meet the qualifications of having 6 months in the district and 18 years older. That's what the law says. I did all of that without a bar card. Why? Because I have a compassion and I love people. Also, what I brought for you today is that I started that networking with the federal courts, the county courts, the municipal courts, all the municipalities. Because when a person come to court, they don't just come with a Class C misdemeanor. Some of them have other cases too. So we started the expunctions clinic. Thank you, Judge D.A. John Pinzo, goodness. But you guys, I also keep this book like I keep my Bible. And I have something you all to have tonight. This is your emergency service book. So anytime people need emergency service, guess what? Our partnership with Our Calling and all your emergency services that you need. Guess what? Because the people we evicted are the very people we came to get our vote. They're the ones that put us in office. So it shouldn't stop at eviction. You should be able to help them after the eviction. And sometimes you can be proactive and help them before the eviction. And that's what I'm here to do. Be blessed.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Brandon Vance. Thank you all so much for coming out today. I am running for Justice of the Peace, Precinct 1, Place 1. I am running for this office because I believe the Justice of the Peace Court needs to be exactly what it was intended to be, the people's court. A court that listens to the people, is nimble enough to meet the needs of the people. For the last 2 years, I've had the honor and the privilege of serving as a visiting judge in the Justice of the Peace Court, meaning I've had the opportunity to sit on the bench, preside over cases, make decisions that impact people's lives, get real-world experience as a judge on the bench. Prior to getting on the bench, I put a lot of time into studying, shadowing, observing, preparing myself to learn this job. Over 350 hours over 2 years of all 10 JPs, learning the job so that I'm ready to serve the people when the time comes. As an Air Force veteran, the idea of public service is not a slogan to me, it is a commitment. In everything I do, I stand by integrity, transparency, and honesty. And that's what I want to bring to this court. I want to build upon the 30 plus years that Thomas Jones has spent building this court, take it to the next level. What that looks like is modernizing this court, fully embracing the Odyssey system that we as taxpayers have already paid for, using every bit of it to move this court and make it more efficient. This is the busiest JP court in the state of Texas. Cannot say that enough. This is the busiest JP court in the state of Texas. We have a new generation of folks that are coming up that are looking for leaders that look like them, that use the same technology that they use. To move this court forward, we need someone that can do that, someone that has the vision to do that, and I'm the person. Right. And Brandon Vance, running for Justice of the Peace 1 month.
All right, first question. In lieu of the new changes to House Bill 38, JP courts handle thousands of evictions. Dallas has an eviction crisis. Families losing housing often becomes because of one bad month. At the same time, landlords have property rights and financial obligations. How do you balance moving eviction cases efficiently and to make sure that tenants understand their rights and have a real chance to defend themselves?
First of all, you need to explain that process to the tenants. The one thing we did in community courts was that once court was called in session, the judge took the opportunity, or myself sometimes, Judge Williams was our presiding judge, and we would explain that process to them. Because I think when people know better, they tend to do better. And so you have to explain the process. You just can't keep going along with the management because it was the people that stand in front of you that put you in office. You have to explain the eviction process. Make sure everything was done in decency and in order. And if it wasn't done in decency and in order, you give them an opportunity to go back, talk with someone that's maybe an advocacy program to see was your rights violated during this process. That's what you need to do, is educate people that come before the court. A lot of people have no idea what the eviction process is or what it looks like.
let's drill down a little bit on that and see what that really looks like. The judge doesn't have that opportunity in court. At that point, it's already a little bit too late. What it looks like and what it should look like and what it will look like when I'm on this bench is actually going out to the community and meeting people where they are. You educate people before they get evicted. You educate students. You go to community meetings, neighborhood associations, homeowners association meetings, and you be present in the community so that you can have those conversations and provide that education. The court in and of itself is a resource hub. And so we want to make sure that the JP1 court has the information in the multiple languages so that people know if they come to the court, they can get information, they can be pointed in the right direction. But as judge, my job is to be in the community so that I can educate the community before they even get to the eviction court. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the things that we currently do is that we do provide that information at the beginning of each court, each and every day. I've done that for over 30 years and we'll continue to do that. In addition to that, we have provided right outside of our court where there are some nonprofit lawyers that represent every tenant that comes into that court each and every day. So that is something that we provide now and we'll continue to provide. We feel that people need the information and we pass it out and we encourage it. Judge Nash and I, we do go to the community. We do hold the seminar at the court. And so we do all those things. I think that's one reason why we have the busiest court, not just in Dallas County, but in the state of Texas. That means that we're doing something right.
Small claims court is supposed to be accessible to regular people without lawyers, but many people find it confusing, intimidating, and hard to navigate. What specific things would you do to make your court more user-friendly for people representing themselves without becoming their advocate?
That's a great question. First, just to be in all reality, small claims are my favorite cases because you never know what you're going to get. It's just people come in, they're mad. One person is mad, this person did me something. And so the role of the judge is to be a neutral party, to be a neutral arbiter, to listen to the facts of both sides, determine what, if any, laws have been broken, and really make a decision. And when it comes to the process of filing the case, the court, and I give credit to Judge Jones and his staff and Judge Nash's staff, they have good paperwork that already explains the process. And so that's something that I would want to build upon. I would want to make sure that that information is online in better format so that people can access that need to come in and file. But the big thing is to have the information available, for it to be in plain language so that folks can understand and they're not overwhelmed. And that's what I think is important in this court.
One of the things that we do in Precinct 1 Place 1 is that we provide information to the citizens. If you come into our court, you will find documents there that's on the wall for people who have access to them. We're implementing in Dallas County, not the court, but Dallas County, the Commissioner's Court. They have a new program called Honesty, and then where cases are filed. And we provide that information. And one of the keys to it, and I think Mr. Dan stated that, is that we train our staff to be user-friendly, to provide information, and that's what we do. And we also tell people that one of the things that you can do, you have access to legal services. And therefore, we give that information out. People don't have to ask for it. We pass that information out each and every day.
Okay. First thing, you want to make sure that the information is distributed in all counties. utilizing social media, utilizing me. Dee Dee was here from the morning team, but I do 5 radio stations. So I'm gonna get you somewhere on radio, on print, on TV, on any other way of communication. I wanna make sure you are educated about the court process. So I utilize every access availability to me to communicate with you. I work with all the churches. I don't think it's an elected official here that I haven't worked on their campaign free. So I try to make sure no matter where I am, that I get the information out to people of the court process. I also work with Adam Magoo, who has a mediation, so that if you still don't understand, we have a mediator there in the courts to also help you with that process. But here's the good news. Now in the city, we had the contract with Accenture so that they could actually provide it in whatever language you speak. It's not just English or Spanish, but we met you where you are in whatever language you spoke.
All right, now open for audience questions.
Greetings, my name is Olinka Green, and my question is to the city, our community, nice people. This court has one of the highest rates of evictions, and during COVID, I was one of those people, and there was no resources given to me. What would be different upon y'all's leadership? That's what I want to know. Thank you very much.
I would be very disappointed if we did not provide any resources, but that is something that we give out each and every day. But let me also add this: when people come into the court,
Judge Evans, 1 second. I'm not going to allow you to answer that question. It's a personal question, and I gave instructions that we would not do it. I have another question for you.
Good evening, everybody. My question to the candidates is, what qualifications and experience do you have that would enable you to execute the work related to the position that you're seeking? I'll say it again just to be clear. What qualifications and experience do you have to be able to execute the work related to the position that you're seeking?
As I stated earlier, prior to becoming the JP, I worked in the affairs of the Office of Civil Rights for more than 10 years as a compliance officer. I served on the Dallas School Board for some 5 years. And we talked about some heavy work, and we had some heavy work there. And now I stand before you with more than 32 years of the experience, real experience on nothing from the outside, but on the inside. We've developed a program. And just in case someone may not ask me, what I like to point out just briefly here is that within the last 3 months, now, I didn't take it out of my pocket constantly, but we secured some $25,000 for the housing program that's administered by Harmony through the Concord Church. We gave it didn't come out of my pocket, but we got a donor to donate $25,000, gave the check to Reverend Carter. So we just gonna talk about it. We reach out and help people.
You guys, I am so glad. I've been a member of Concord Baptist Church 43 years. I worked with the Harmony Foundation, was a part of that startup for that foundation. But you guys, we did so much, even during the COVID part, and trying to partner with everybody to make sure nobody was evicted. And we worked hard. We even had drive-ups. We was out there till midnight doing drive-ups, trying to spend money to make sure, and we had an abundance of money at the city of Dallas. I utilized all the court staff to make sure that most people can't do things on a computer. So we printed out hard copies to make it easier for the people. Then everybody don't know how to use a Dropbox. So guess what? We told them to bring your ID to the community court. We're going to make copies of that. We're going to make it easy. We meet you where you are and try to make it as easy as possible and give you the services that you need to the best of our ability within the guidelines that we have to do it in. So that's what we do to try.
That was my question.
What was your question?
what experience and qualifications?
Okay, my experience and qualification is that you all, for the last 40 years, I have been working in the courts. I've been working in the county courts, county criminal court number 1, so that's criminal court. I've also worked 20 years at the city of Dallas in misdemeanor court. Now those are class C courts, and our whole purpose for working in those courts was to keep you from elevating to another level. I've also worked with the federal courts. I've also worked with the county courts as well.
All right, what qualifications and experience do I have that prepare me for this? As I said, I served in the United States Air Force. I'm a veteran of the Air Force. I have also, right here in the city of Dallas, I served on the Homeless Commission as a commissioner for 2.5 years. But specifically, the work that I've done over the last 2.5 years of serving as a visiting judge, I've had the opportunity to sit on all 10 benches in Dallas County, learn from all 10 JPs. That way I see what the differences are. What's happening in this court is different than what's happening in this court. And then bringing that all together to serve the people of this community. One example of that is when it comes to making sure I elucidate who I'm ruling for. Because there are courts where people walk out and they don't know whether or not they've won or lost their case. I make sure I say, I'm ruling for the plaintiff. I'm ruling for the defendant. If I rule for the plaintiff, I make sure I explain to the defendant how they can go file an appeal before they leave the court. Because it's important for them to know what the process is and leave with an understanding of what has happened to them. Thank you.
All right. For every candidate, do you have maybe 1 or 2 witnesses you want to do? JP courts handle truancy cases. Often, there are underlying issues: poverty, family instability, learning disabilities, kids caring for siblings. Punishing the family sometimes makes things worse. For example, when a student has missed 40 days of school, what's your approach to balance the accountability of addressing the real issues while the students aren't in school?
Naturally, I haven't worked with the truancy court and JP court because I've never been to JP. But we did get the grant. Several years ago, U.S. Attorney General Gonzalez gave out a grant that I wrote, and he only gave it to 4 different states. The state of Texas was one of those states for truancy. And so we administered a truancy program. One of the first things we did was actually put it on Saturday so parents didn't have to try to find a way for them to go do community service during the week. So they came to do community service on Saturdays for 8 hours, and we partnered with Commissioner Garcia for them to pay out for fee. But we also had the parents to go to a free class. There was no fees involved. Everything was about community service, them working back into the community, and we had special guests to come in, and Martin Luther King III and Reverend Jesse Jackson and John Crusoe was some of those special guests to come in and teach and educate our kids on why it's so important to stay in school, why you shouldn't do truancy. So those was things they had to learn basic life skill classes. And all this was free and open to the public, open to those students. But we taught them the importance of your parent is going to work, so you go to school.
Okay. Having actually served on truancy court, presided over truancy court, I think the specific answer to this question is kind of what I've had the opportunity to do. So when you're talking to a parent, in this day and age, in 2026, we have parents that are very nervous. We have an entire community that's nervous about going to court. We have kids that are putting their parents in a position where they have to come before a judge. I'm thinking about this Hispanic mother who I could tell she was terrified standing in front of me. And I'm looking at the daughter, and the daughter is being so rude and disrespectful, literally telling her mom to shut up, telling her mom, don't answer questions. And so I had to address that young lady. And I was like, I don't know what your problem is, but your mother is here because of you. And so it's explaining to these kids that they are putting their parent in a position where they are standing before a judge, facing whatever judgment comes. But you do this in a way that you also ask the kid, what is going on? Why are you in this position? and doing that personally, one-on-one in a court, that's a moment that they will never forget. Thank you.
Thank you. While I served on the Dallas School Board, I had the opportunity to work with Mr. Leslie Williams, and where we created program, Family Youth Intervention. We had a renowned program for the state of Texas, not just for Dallas, and where we got the family together. Oftentimes, families didn't understand that they could discipline their children. And I told them that Texas Penal Code 9.61 says that you can administer corporal punishment as long as you don't abuse the child. We set up counseling for the families. There are many issues why young people didn't go to school, and some of the parents that they couldn't afford it. We help people find jobs. So it was one thing to talk about it, but we created programs that address those issues. So they're turning those things.
Studies show racial disparities in minor criminal cases. Who gets stopped, who gets charged, who gets harsher sentences. Whether conscious or not, bias exists in the judicial system. How would you check your bias in your decisions while maintaining or ensuring defendants of different races receive equal treatment in your court?
That's a great question. First off top, judges in the state of Texas are required to do training throughout the year, every annual training, including implicit bias training. And so in the JP Board, the Texas Justice Court Training Center, that is a part of what we have to do each year. And I will comply with and exceed whatever those requirements are as far as training to make sure that I am up to date and prepared. But also, racial bias also comes in the form of the court itself. And so it's having a diverse staff so that you have different voices that come in and give you a different perspective from this culture, this organization, this group, these people. So that when you're making decisions, when you're having team meetings, you have different voices at the table that can come and have honest feedback, have an open door policy so that your staff is willing to share with you so that you don't have to look at all the angles yourself, that you have people that have your back that are looking at it with you.
As a judge, you're not making a decision just for yourself, but you have to look at yourself, and you have to determine how would I want to be treated, and you don't make a decision based on the complexion of someone's skin, but you said, do I want to be treated that way? Am I making a decision based on the ethnicity of that person, or am I basing a decision upon the evidence and upon the facts? And so therefore, that's a litmus test for each judge in terms of how would I want to be treated. And so that's how I would treat that.
The mere fact I'm African American, I should look at anyone and actually try to make a decision based on race, creed, or color. Because I know and I've heard how that can happen. You just base the decision based on the facts that's been presented before you, not by the economic, not by the race, not by the religion, based on the facts. That's how you rule on your decisions. What are the facts that have been presented before you? That's it. Amen.
Okay, the courts, just like normal businesses, run from 8 to 5. But most people work from 8 to 5. So how do you handle people who cannot or make it very difficult for them to get off during 8 to 5 hours, like on the weekends or after 5?
Judge Jones?
Well, it's a blessing that they gainfully employed. But seriously though, there's a process where with the invention of technology, where you can have a case where you can zoom in, where you can do a conference call for those individuals that have to go to work early, get off work late. And so we can make those arrangements with the court so we can have a conference call.
Clear transparency. I have to say I got this idea from Commissioner Don Bobby Price when he was a clerk in Judge Steele Court. We had night court. So on Thursday night, and they're still doing it now at the city of Dallas, we have night court. That night court works both ways. It's from 1 until 9 p.m. So here's what happens. Staff only comes in at 1 o'clock. So now they get to go have lunch with their sons or daughters at school. They go get to make doctor's appointment without taking sick time. So now they can come to work at 1, and it's only 1 day a week on Thursdays. But also, we actually have a Saturday court sometime because we made it convenient for the parents. We understand everybody can't take off from their job, but we also have virtual. And guess what? Thanks to John Warren, I know how to do Odyssey because it was Encode at the city first, and then we went from Encode to Odyssey. So I know how to use software so we can do it virtually.
Thank you so much. Actually, I love this question. This is one of my top priorities for this court, is bringing in the initiative of a night court. And so Ms. Gibson, I'm really excited about that. Several of the other JP courts have done this or attempted to do this, maybe once every 2 weeks or once a month. I believe this court being as busy as it is, that a weekly night court would work very well here. While I have the microphone, my other two initiatives, I want to introduce a true intern program working with SOC, Townview Magnet, and Carter, that we have an intern program that those students that are interested in the court system will be able to come in. And then my third initiative that I'm looking forward to implementing is going to be, like I said earlier, having more opportunities for community partnerships, having the neighborhood associations there, having the HOAs there, really like bringing and buying into this being the people's court and bringing the people into the court.
Right, we have come to that time where it is time for our 1-minute closing. Time flies when you're having fun. So candidates, remember to let people know how they can get in touch with their campaign. And we'll be, as they are formulating their 1-minute closing, we want to just reiterate one more time that you'll be able to see tonight's form on DallasExaminer.com tomorrow. And with that, we'll begin with our 1-minute closing. We'll start with Ms. Diane Gibson.
I'll say this quick. First of all, this is African American History Month. I hope you all doing like I did. I took out an ad in the Dallas Examiner. So I'm challenging all the rest of you all to take out an ad too, since they're putting on this platform. I know that's part of my 27, but I'll give it to you. In addition to that, you guys, I have been here. I didn't just get this name, this community. Like I said, I've helped everybody, almost at least half of this room, plus getting elected. I have proven that I got boots to the ground, heels to the ground. You put it to the ground, I put it there. Okay, and I also have the experience with working with Odyssey, working with Encode, working with all level of the judicial system. I have done that. Plus, in addition to that, I know how to run a court. I know how to make a court work. I know how to talk to people. You have to be a judge with a heart. Still do judgment, but you have to have compassion too. So look, guess what? Without a vision, the people will perish. I don't plan on perishing. For Diane Gibson, Justice of the Peace. My telephone number, everybody has it anyway, 214-335-9915. You can always find me in the community.
All right. Again, my name is Brandon Vance, running for Justice of the Peace 1-1. Thank you all for coming out. I am running for this bench because I believe in the community, and I believe that this court has the ability to be nimble enough to make the appropriate changes, to modernize, to serve the community. That's what this is about. It's how do we take this court and take it to the next level? Be present for the people. As a visiting judge, as an Air Force veteran, I have shown up for the community. I have a history of being an advocate for people that are historically unheard. And I want to be this judge so that I can inspire young Black and brown kids that they can see someone doing a job, doing this with integrity, doing it with honor, and doing it the right way. It's easy to get in touch with me. My website is brandonforjudge.com. I think everybody in the county has my phone number. That's why I put it on business cards, 210-286-5349. And hopefully I can earn your vote between now and election day. Thank you.
Briefly, we've heard people talk about what they will do. I'm talking about what we have done and what we are currently doing, and we will continue to do so. We've tried to like okay, but one of the things that I want to say with my woman, I have served this community with humility. I've served this community with integrity. I've served this community with wisdom. And on March the 3rd, I'm asking for your support, that of your friends and your family members. That on March the 3rd, if you entrust me, if you continue to entrust me with this responsibility, I will continue to stand with justice with mercy. Because justice without mercy is incomplete. Thank you for your time. Thank you, and may God bless and keep each and every one of us.
Thank you, Dennis. All right, ladies and gentlemen, time for our final race for District Attorney, Dallas County District Attorney. We have Joe Kudo first, Amber Gibbons next. We'll begin with our 2-minute opening. Judge Kudo.
Good evening. Good evening. Now I got it right. Okay. My name is John Kuzombia, Dallas County District Attorney, and I have been since January 1 of 2019. We talked about a lot of things up here about the criminal justice system, and one of the most important things is the intersection of injustice in the criminal justice system, and the intersection of race and injustice in the criminal justice system. And what you want is a district attorney who has actually addressed some of those issues, not only as a judge, but as a district attorney, and address them successfully. Since I've been in office, I've signed the exonerations for 10 men, many of them who are here in this room tonight. Since I've been in office, I've seen to it that the scourge of Tommy Lee Walker, who was executed by this community back in 1956 for a crime that he didn't commit, recently was declared innocent by the Dallas County Commissioner's Court, and I made that presentation because that was the right thing to do, and it was time to heal that wound, even though we'll never bring Tommy Lee Walker back. Thank you. The other thing I want you to know is that I understand the full breadth of the district attorney's office. When I was in the DA's office, I tried 130 plus felony jury trials, and I'll stand with that record, okay? And that's what it takes to understand how the office works and what to do. We are on a mission to straighten up the criminal justice system. In 2018, when I came into office, we compared the number of misdemeanor marijuana cases. You remember what my policy was to stop prosecuting, all the way up to 2025, those 2 different years. Okay, we had a 74% drop. We dealt with the mentally ill. We have a 15 to 20% recidivism rate when the national average is 50 to 70%. Everywhere that we have dealt, everywhere that we have interjected ourselves in other offices to help them or in our own, we have made a difference that's measurable, that I can give to you, that you can see, and there are people in here today that are beneficiaries of our policies. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Amber Gibbons, and I'm running for Dallas County Criminal District Attorney. And I served Dallas County for about 11 years as a state district judge, and before that as a prosecutor. And what I've learned is very simple. Public safety isn't about politics, and it's not about appearances. What it is about judgment, accountability, and evidence. And one of the major things, if we want to talk about numbers, right? I think one number that's really important to talk about is 572. And when I say 572, what am I talking about? I'm talking about the 113 murder cases that were audited by DPD in 2023. When I sounded the alarm about missing evidence, right? And they did an audit of those 113 murder cases that were already set for trial, and 572 deleted videos were identified. That's an important number when we're talking about evidence and what it really looks like, right? Because we were told by the current DA and the then DPD chief that those deleted videos didn't impact evidence. And I don't know how—
Please give your comments to your campaign.
Yes, well, I'm about to circle back. And I'm not sure how we talk about real evidence when we don't identify the fact that we have deleted cases in a county where we continuously miss the mark. We're number 7 in the country for exonerations. But if we're proceeding on cases without evidence, we're creating fertile ground for additional exonerations. Thank you.
Number 2 people with questions. Next question. The DA works closely with police every day, but also has the duty to prosecute officers who break the law. This creates real tension. You need good relationships with law enforcement, but you also need to hold them accountable when necessary. How do you balance being a partner to law enforcement while being willing to prosecute officers when the evidence supports it?
Well, I think it's important to understand that a DA's job is not to be in bed with law enforcement. There's a clear distinction between police and prosecutors. And police have a very low burden of probable cause. The DA's office has an additional burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And so I don't think there's any confusion there. I think that's part of the issue, is that the community doesn't trust that you're not in bed with the police department. And so with that said, I wouldn't have an issue with that. Matter of fact, one of the things while I was on the bench that I pursued was actually having the DA's office run the criminal history of police officers, right? Because they're witnesses, and subpoena their internal revenue files, because the Code of Criminal Procedure requires that you scrutinize everyday people that are witnesses. And so why would we not do the same to police officers, especially since we've seen what happens in America as it relates to police officers and to the justice system? Thank you.
Richard Miles, I think, is in this room. In fact, he's sitting right there. Guess who helped draft the Richard Miles Act? I did. Guess who went to the legislature to get the Richard Miles Act passed? I did. Okay? And the legislators that helped me are sitting right in here today. What was the Richard Miles Act? That the police have to turn over the evidence with the case. That's a requirement now. It never was before. Is it a problem in Dallas today? Yeah. It's a problem in Houston, it's a problem in Odessa, and it's a problem all across the United States. And that's why we make legislation. Let's talk about holding police accountable. Dallas County, Texas is the only county and jurisdiction in the United States of America to successfully prosecute police officers for violating people's rights during the 2020 George Floyd protests. I don't think I need to say anything more about my commitment to holding police accountable. That speaks for itself. Thank you.
I know it comes quick.
That's okay.
It comes quick.
I'll adjust.
Dallas County has thousands of people in jail right now who may have people put this way. Dallas County has people in jail right now who haven't been convicted of anything. They're waiting for trial because they can't afford bail. Some stay for months, losing jobs, housing, while people are charged with safe crimes who can make bail or home. At the same time, some people released for low bail commit newer crimes. Should a person charged with their first non-violent felony sit in jail for months because they can't afford bail? Yes, no, or no?
No. You say why? Because they're low-level offenders the first time. And what we ought to do is do an assessment of whether they're a risk to flee or not. And that's what we do. And the vast majority of those people who are low-level offenders for the first time, they get a personal recognizance bond. In fact, to make sure that that happens, I have 4 lawyers specifically assigned to check the overnight list every night to see if there's those people still in jail that for some reason they didn't get out. And we call their lawyers, and we call these judges, and we get them in front of the court to see to it and let the judge make a decision and advocate as much as we can on their behalf that they be released from jail. So we have a process in place. Okay? The question encompasses a question and an ideal. Okay? We are providing answers and solutions to the ideal. Thank you.
I say no, but I say no for a very simple reason. This one right that everybody in America has, regardless of your citizenship. No, because those people are cloaked in the presumption of innocence, period. Right? And so it doesn't matter what you think as a DA or as a judge, because you should stand in the middle and appreciate and understand that everyone is afforded that right. So no, I don't believe that they should be held. But also, the legislature did change the law, right? And there's certain offenses right now where judges, it doesn't matter what they feel or what the DA says, the law has tied their hands and they cannot offer bail to certain individuals. And that's a problem, and that's something that as a DA, I would go to Austin and I would advocate for that not to be the case, because we just stood up here and talked about exonerations, but in the same breath, we're talking about judges that cannot allow people out on bond, and they're still cloaked in the presumption of innocence. They have not been found guilty, haven't even had their day in trial. So, thank you.
Now we come to the part where audience questions. Those who have questions, please. All right. Good evening again. If you was the DA of Heffron County, Heffron is what Minneapolis is located at, what would be the first thing you do to protect the citizens of that county?
One of the first things, actually, I would have already implemented a community justice council, because that's one of the reasons why the community doesn't trust the DA's offices throughout the United States. When things happen with police, there's an immediate rush for judgment because they don't trust that you're going to make the right decision, because there's a gap between the courthouse and the community. And I would make sure with my community justice councils that there's real transparency, real accountability on an everyday basis. So when a tragedy like that happens, it's not a situation where we're meeting for the first time, or it's not an election season. You're hearing from me for the first time for a long time because I'm trying to create a relationship with you. So that would be my basis, that community trust, where we would continuously be in contact with each other, with the councils. There would be real transparency by way of them looking at our stats, not asking to pat us on the back, but the idea and the concept that it's community governance, right? And not the community being subject to the criminal justice system, which is what's part of the problem when we have these issues that occur. Thank you.
If I was the district attorney of Minneapolis, I'd call down to Dallas, Texas to see if John Creusot would join me in a fight against federal overreach. That'd be the first thing I'd do. And guess what? I'd call me some other DAs, Larry Krasner, some other people from around the United States, and I'd see if I could get them agreed. Because I'm from a community that may not have a whole lot of money, being Minneapolis. And some of these other prosecutors are from jurisdictions that don't have a lot of money. And so what we did when that phone call was made, okay, was to get together and band together. We're going to have further meetings, but the purpose of it is to raise money to give them resources to be able to prosecute these cases. So I have gotten the call. I did say yes, and I'm trying to help raise money. Thank you. Yes.
How are you going to assure that the high turnover rate, based on the current and future administration, is not going to continue, and is not going to continue under your administration to keep African American and minority prosecutors?
I'm sorry. The rules were you have 1 minute to answer the question. And that question has to be to both candidates. And it can't be personal. Okay, so, okay, but it's been past your minute, so we're asking what is your question? Okay.
based on the current turnover rate, how are you going to ensure retaining minority prosecutors that depict how the community looks as far as minorities when they come before the judicial system in order to be judged amongst their peers?
Okay, first of all, the administration for my office is 50%, okay, or more, people of color, okay? That's administration. That includes me, that includes my first assistant, that includes bureau chiefs and felony chiefs, okay? Many of the prosecutors who are chiefs of the courts, of course, down in the misdemeanor court, they're working their way through, are people of color. We do actively go out and find and search out people of color. We want people who speak Spanish. We want Hispanic people because we have a huge Hispanic constituency, so to speak, either as witnesses or people who are charged with crimes. And as far as what has happened in the last 20 years in the DA's office, I can't be responsible for all of that. I'm sorry. Okay? But I know what I've done. Okay? And let me tell you what I won't tolerate. I don't care what you look like. Okay? If you lie to a judge, you can't work in the DA's office. If you hide evidence, go ask Richard Miles what that means. You can't work in the DA's office.
So, you all, more prosecutors of color have been fired than men and women exonerated in the last 8 years under the current administration. I'll say it again. More prosecutors of color have been fired from this DA's office than there have been men and women exonerated. Okay? And so that's key because the community should be reflected in your office. Retention should not be an issue. I could ask them, but there are at least a handful of them here today that have been fired from the DA's office, right? And so that's key because Mr. Watkins created an office where you knew that the community was represented in that office and his policies reflected the same. And so when you have a DA's office where, when you have a DA's office where, what happened to the can I get 10 seconds back? Okay, I appreciate it. When you have an office, as I was saying, that does not reflect the community, that's a problem because that is not only about it's about your charging decisions, it's about how you treat people as prosecutors and the transparency in the way you make offers across the board to people that are Black and brown. Because if you're not treating your prosecutors fairly, I'm sorry,
If you're going to be a distraction, we're going to have to ask you to leave. Nobody's exempt from that.
you know that was the Yes.
My name is Chaz Rogers. Under the current leadership of Chief DA, how do you plan on handling misrepresentation of criminal forensics? I'm sorry, misrepresentation of false criminal forensics.
False criminal forensics. But you said were you referencing, you set up an individual office at first when you start asking the question? Okay, so you're talking about the DA's office and misrepresentation of evidence. Well, considering we're in a situation in 2023 where the DA's office said that prosecutors don't have to ask for evidence, I think that's been noted. In 2023, when the alarm was sounded by myself, when I said that there's consistently evidence issues, I believe the Richard Miles Act keeps being brought up, but actually the birth of that act was based on a decision that I made out of a Mesquite murder case, right? I held the Mesquite Police Department accountable, right? I said, Mesquite, you keep coming in here with evidence every single hearing date. right? At some point that has to stop. Right? I suppressed all the evidence in that case. That's where the Richard Miles Act came from that ruling in my court. Right? And when the Richard Miles Act wasn't enough, because you can have the MMA Act, the Michael Moore Act, the Richard Miles Act, and guess what? It's still about whether or not the DA is going to hold their prosecutors accountable. What am I holding right here? After the Richard Miles Act was enacted, it wasn't enough. I was still finding that evidence was not being turned over. So I made this discovery compliance setting. I'll finish my thank you.
The Richard Miles Act didn't got. I'm sorry. You hear me now? Okay. The Richard Miles Act was an act that was taken to the legislature over 3 sessions. Okay. It didn't become of some Mesquite case. However, she's correct about the Mesquite case. I'm gonna give her complete credit for it. The Mesquite police did not give us all the evidence. Okay. And you're practicing lawyer, Pete. We know right now, all over the state of Texas, that the police still are not complying with the Richard Miles Act. Okay? That's why we have judges to do what? If necessary, hold them in contempt and do what they do. But what's the point here? I did all I could, and I hold them accountable. And when it goes back, it doesn't matter who withholds the evidence, whether it's the police or anybody that works in the DA's office, they're not going to work with me. They will be reported to their superior police department, and they'll have to take the action. And if necessary, I will ban them from, and have banned them from ever testifying in a criminal case again. So I'll do all I can do. I can't change everybody, but I do the best I can.
Hello. With the recent purchase of the warehouse in Hutchins by ICE, I'm curious how each of you will work with local law enforcement, DEA, and FBI to make sure that we are peaceful, that we have a process, that we are fair, and that when there is federal overreach, that is taken care of.
Well, to answer your question, I don't know that there's any police department in Dallas County that intends to work with ICE, to be honest with you. Now, can they provide some type of a support role, like covering the perimeter and things like that? Yes, of course. And there often is, but as we see in Minneapolis, there's often not, okay? And I don't have any control over that. All of the cases that are handled with this immigration or anything else go into the federal system, into the federal courts. I have not had any knowledge of any of that here. And as I said about joining this FAFO thing, that it is my deep and soulful prayer that this community never have to have the presence of ICE here and those activities, because I guarantee you our police chiefs will take action and we will prosecute if we have enough evidence.
So with that said, not having any jurisdiction over federal matters, right? What I can tell you is as it relates to ICE and its local interactions with people, I think a DA's office, their charging decisions matter a lot, right? Because you're gonna have people that end up in custody and ICE is actually housed, well, you have immigration and ICE impacted people at Lew Sterrett, right? So a lot of times people end up in custody and for an offense they may not even ever get charged with, right? But that's one thing that I would do is create a robust intake department so that way that charge would never be accepted and a person's immigration status would not be impacted. So while I can't do anything about federal consequences and laws, you can change that locally as a DA by impacting how you charge, your charging decisions. Do you accept every charge that an officer presents to you, or do you have an intake division that literally analyzes on the street in the moment, do they have enough to proceed with the cases?
All right, so as a headline for people who are still deciding who they're going to vote for, what would you say is the biggest difference between you and your opponent as it relates to the district attorney's office?
If I thought I could answer without... Okay.
talk a little bit about exonerations.
Yes, thank you. So the records show that Mr. Watkins had 24 exonerations in his administration, right, in 8 years. The records show that there are 8 exonerations attributed to the current administration, right? And I will say this, there was conversation about Tommy Lee Walker, and I love me a good ceremony, I'm sure all of you all do, right? But the issue in Texas is that in order for an individual that believes they were wrongfully prosecuted and incarcerated, they have to initiate that post-conviction relief, and that's a problem. That's why Tommy Lee Walker will always, despite the fact that he was wrongfully convicted, it will always just be a ceremony. What I would do as the DA, I would go to Austin and say, you know, we really need, as the DA's office, to be able to initiate post-conviction relief. That's important for people because that takes resources from people who are in custody. They have to find a lawyer, they have to start that process. That shouldn't be the case, especially in Dallas where we know we've continued to miss the mark. So I would present to the legislature a bill called the Tommy Lee Walker Bill where the state initiates post-conviction relief. Thank you.
You know, exonerations are sad things when they occur, but they're joyful also because a person has finally gained his or her freedom, mostly him, in the United States. You know, we talk about post-conviction and what the state ought to do. Did you know that there's already an office funded by the legislature to handle those cases? It's called the Office of Felony and Capital Writs. And every legislative session, I have gone down and instructed my team to go down and advocate for more funding for the office so we can have more qualified lawyers to represent people on post-conviction type matters. Okay? I understand what's going on. I was a judge for 22 years. When I was in the DA's office, I tried 130-something jury trials. Okay? I put a lot of people away. And in 1989, Randall Dale Adams, nobody knows about him. He was actually the first exoneree, and I was one of the prosecutors on that case. I saw what went wrong, and I did everything I could to get it right. Thank you.
What's one problem with the justice system you've seen up close during this campaign that most people might not realize?
Ooh, that I've seen during the campaign that people might not realize? I can't say that the campaign has shed light on any particular thing. I think the systemic problems have been there, and I think that we're making progress on them in Dallas County. I think that a lot of other places are. I think the problem of race is an issue, obviously systemic, because it's institutionalized in the criminal justice system. And I don't know that there's anything that will ever trump that as far as the fairness and who gets arrested, who gets charged, what they get charged with, how they get sentenced, etc. Okay, so as far as the race itself is concerned, I think there's just a contrast and a preference. As I said before, we're in America. I'm glad I don't live in Iran and Iraq. Okay? It's okay to have an opponent. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not resentful of it. I'm okay. Because I live in America. I don't live in Iran. I don't live in Iraq. And it's okay.
So I would say a lot of people feel apathetic. They don't understand what a DA does. A lot of people, when I'm knocking on doors, they don't know who the DA is necessarily. And trying to inform them about why this is important, right? And then that kind of goes into history. In Dallas County in the 1980s, there was a manual called the John Sproul Manual, right? And that manual taught prosecutors how to get rid of minorities from jury panels, right? The Supreme Court of the United States said that Dallas County was engaging in systemic racial discrimination, and there were cases overturned, right? And that was in the 1980s, I know, when my opponent was in the DA's office. And it was up until the mid-80s that they stopped using it. But that's the issue, is really trying to explain to people, you know, this is why you should be invested in this race, because Dallas County has a long-standing history of putting in writing what we feel and how we feel about certain people that should be excluded from the justice system. Thank you.
Good evening, judges. Budget is a moral document, and and I believe the people want a district attorney who will put their money where their mouth is. So based off of your campaign, what would be your top 3 line items that you would most heavily invest in for your campaign?
Once I get in my office.
My apologies, once you have the office.
Yes, okay. So I think the first thing that I would do is implement the evidence-ready prosecution standard, and that would need a robust intake department. There are other peer cities like Harris County that have an intake department, and it really saves a lot on your cost if you're talking just merely about money, about how much we're spending to incarcerate individuals that are close to presumption of innocence, right? It's important that you have that intake department. The intake department would change all of Dallas County. Okay, it would change how prosecutors look at cases because they would know that they would be held responsible in how they proceed, and it wouldn't merely be a situation where we're accepting every single charge. That's one of the main ways. The other way, I would invest in making sure that we have a diverse office, okay? And that's training the individuals that are executive ADAs in learning how to teach those prosecutors how to flourish in the office and how to support them as diverse members of the community. And I think that would be really key, those 2 things.
Thank you for the question. 3 things, budget. Let's talk about juvenile. Let's talk about where it all starts with our children, okay? I've paid $150,000 for a series of studies about what's going on in Dallas County in the juvenile justice system, and we will all get it wrong, including the DAs. Okay? We straighten up our act, and then we work with the juvenile department to straighten up their act. There were 200 kids a day in the juvenile detention facility. It's down to 70 now. Okay? Why? Because I was curious, because I didn't like what was going on, and I asked a question and I had the study done. What's the other thing? Let's talk about mental health. Okay, most of the people coming through, 65 or more % in the county jail have mental health issues, and we should be putting our budget, our money, and we do. We went from 4 people to 24 people in our mental health diversion division, and we've been very successful. The unhoused, the mentally ill, and the substance abuser are often mixed all into one person. We have put programs together that have been successful. Thank you. Got a question in? Yeah, okay. They got rules, you know.
What is the minimum standard of evidence your office should have before charging someone with a crime? And how will we protect people from being prosecuted when there is no real evidence?
Well, that's a very good question. Thank you. Yeah, when there is no evidence, we reject the cases. So that's easy, okay? If it comes upon us after a case is charged and we realize there is no evidence, and that could be for a number of reasons. The witnesses disappear, go away, or change their minds, but we don't have any evidence, guess what? We dismiss that case. If it becomes evident to us that there is an actual harm done, but it was in self-defense or defense of a third party, we don't throw it up against the wall and see if it'll stick. We dismiss the case. So we are active in looking at cases and seeing to it. As far as the minimal standards for charging a case, probable causes to arrest, we look at cases as to whether or not we can prove them beyond a reasonable doubt, even though the grand jury only needs probable cause to indict. But we look at it the entire way to try to see if we can't prove that case, whether it's probable cause or not, we're going to move it out of the system as fast as we can.
So when I talked about priorities financially, and I mentioned the evidence-ready prosecution standard, I'm talking about a 30, 60, 90-day review period, so that in Texas, what it requires by law is that you turn over the evidence as a prosecutor as soon as is practicable. What does that mean? In Dallas, I'm going to tell you right now, it means that sometimes the evidence is being turned over when the jury's in the hallway. Okay? What I am proposing is the first 30 days, we're documenting what evidence needs to be turned over and what we have. And we are looking to see, is the investigation over, there are additional steps that need to be had. With the 60 days, we're looking to see what evidence is still missing, right? And then it triggers a supervisor's involvement in that. And then we're updating the victim to see, what's going on with the case. And then we're also giving additional disclosures to defense counsels at the time. And then the 90-day period, right? You either decide you accept the charge by presenting it to the grand jury, you either decline it, or you say we need more time to get additional evidence. Thank you.
disparities in plea deals and sentencing. What concrete steps will you take to eliminate these disparities, and how will you ensure the public can hold you accountable for results?
Thank you. So that's a really good question. That's part of what the Community Justice Council will do, because they will track they'll track our plea trends, right? And right now, I'll tell you, when I was sitting on the bench as a judge, there were instances where I tracked certain prosecutors, right? And communicated that information to the DA's office, because there would be instances where people would look different, same offense, and the criminal histories mirrored each other, and they got different offers, right? That's not fair across the board. In Dallas County, justice really depends on what courtroom you're in. Justice really depends on what prosecutor you get assigned to, and that's a problem. And so the Community Justice Councils will be one way that we don't just talk about transparency, but you literally have access to how we are pleading cases. Matter of fact, what cases are we trying, right? What cases are we pursuing? Or are we changing our policies and not explaining to the community why we're doing that, right? So transparency across the board, inviting you all to really have a seat at the table, not just asking you to go vote, not just asking you to show up for jury service, but really allowing you to have a shared experience in the criminal justice system. Thank you.
So thank you for the question. I think racial disparity starts when somebody puts their eyes on a suspect around the street, around a house, or somewhere else, okay? Because this criminal justice system that we live with was designed and built post-Reconstruction. And the tenets of it are still there, and we have to live with it and deal with them every day. And the thing is, listen to me carefully. When I said that from 2018 to 2025, we've reduced by 74% misdemeanor marijuana filings. That's 90% black children, black and brown children. So the policies are working, okay? As far as what's going on in the courts, okay, that's dealing with the police chiefs and them. And when those officers are out there displaying that type of bias in what they present, we have the freedom, and we will exercise the choice that we will not call them as a witness anymore. As far as what's going on in the office, if it comes to my attention, that person can no longer work in the DA's office. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you all for coming. My question is about the Public Integrity Division.
Yes.
And how do you utilize that in your...
Okay, the question, if you didn't hear, was about how do we utilize the Public Integrity Division. How does the office, I'm sorry. How does the office utilize the Public Integrity Division? Well, first of all, any officer who injures someone while on duty, it could be a car wreck, or shoots at someone and misses, or shoots at someone and wounds them, or shoots at someone and kills them, or anything that deals with the harm to an individual, okay, that will come through that unit. That unit does an independent investigation, okay, from top to bottom. We call experts if we need to. We call other DA's offices, and we work with the police, and we don't always agree. And sometimes it's ugly, okay? Think about Amber Guyger. Everybody, what did the police say? That was a manslaughter. No, it wasn't. It was murder, okay? And so we tried it as a murder. Thank you. And so those tensions exist, okay? But we have our job to do, and they're not going to tell us how to do it. We're going to do the job that you put us there to do, which is to fairly and thoroughly look at those cases and come to a conclusion. Thank you.
So the Public Integrity Unit operates the same way, I would venture to say, in most jurisdictions. I've had the pleasure and honor of working with 4 DAs that were elected, and I would say that their take on it was the same. They're not in bed with the police, but I would also then say it has to be more than about that one concept. The police have to know that you're going to treat them, involving them in cases the same way you treat everyone else. And I would say that also means beyond that unit, it means when you have a witness that is a police officer, you do subpoena their records from the law enforcement agency. You do run their criminal history like you would do any other witness in any other case, because if your commitment to public integrity is real, You don't treat them any different than what the code section requires you to treat all witnesses, to run their criminal history, to check and make sure that there's nothing in their background. Because what America has taught us, a lot of these officers that have killed people, they knew about it before they went to the next law enforcement agency, right? So if you treat them like everybody else, then that's your real commitment to public integrity. Thank you.
Man, again, time flies when you're having fun. Obviously, it's a race that you're very interested in. And I want you to notice something, crowd. I make no bones about it. I don't make any excuses. If you notice, when we stay within the format of answering the questions, asking the questions within the format, and the candidates stay within the format, how informative this forum was. The goal is for you to leave educated, not emotionally riled up. I will maintain that order going forward for any other forum that we do. The goal is for you to be educated, not to be excited and walk out of here and not know what the candidate does and who they are. That's your vote. Know who you're voting for. So the idea is for you to be educated. Great questions. I love your passion. Just make sure that we ask for both candidates. As the candidates are preparing their 1 minute closing, thinking about what they want to say. Again, you'll be able to see tonight's forum, Dallas Examiner. Go there tomorrow, probably about an afternoon, it'll be there. You can look at the recap of not only tonight, but previous forums. Again, thank you for coming. I love your enthusiasm. I want to see you back here next week. So with that, we'll start with our 1 minute closing.
Thank you all very much. As I close, I want to talk about what real accountability looks like, okay? So when we talk about these acts, what I was going to explain to you earlier was because the Richard Miles Act and because the Michael Gordon Act were not sufficient to make sure that the DAs in Dallas County were presenting evidence, I had to create a discovery compliance setting form. Because I had to ask, right? I had to say, I keep seeing these cases after the Richard Miles Act, right? I keep seeing them where evidence has not been turned over. And so I asked the state and defense to fill them out. And the state, as you can see here, the state can't sign. On the other forms it says state refuses to sign, right? So that's real transparency, that's real accountability. When you know it's great that you have an act, but how is it being implemented? And you cannot say that there are state and federal laws that say that police have to turn over evidence, but you don't stand and hold them accountable and say that your prosecutors have to ask for the evidence. That's key. You can't hope as a prosecutor that the police turn over evidence. You have to demand it. Thank you. AmberGivens.com is my website, and my campaign number is 214-422-4350. Again, that's AmberGivens.com. Thank you.
JohnCrusoeCampaign.com. My cell phone number, 214-642-3157. I want to read something to you, and I want to give you some. Let's talk about some ideas about who we are and where we are. I promise you criminal justice reform, and I don't care what anybody says, you have to do it. Okay? Let's be honest. Okay? We can pick this and pick that, but I deliver. And I want to talk about that, because when I go to work, you go to work with me, because you set me there to do that job. So we all go together every day. And I see myself as the following. I saw this written down on the outside of the book cover, and I thought, this is appropriate. A difference maker. A dedicated person who can make a big impact, even with just a small action or a few words. Someone who improves the lives of others. One who rallies or encourages others to propel themselves forward and bring about change. Everything I've done reflects that sentiment and those values, and I look forward to continuing going to work with you every day.
Again, thank you all for coming. We'll see you. One more before you leave.
This is a community service effort. We've been doing it for over 18 years. And I want to thank Eric
He works real hard. Okay, everybody know. Coordinator, Mr. Thomas. Follow the rules and create a safe space for you all to learn about. And you know, I think about all the time what Martin King said. He said, give us the ballot.
Right.
And we will take care of everything else. And we got to get out and vote. We have to be educated voters. And we have to use our influence with our neighbors, our friends, our relatives to get people out to vote. Thank you. The man who records it, and also our timekeeper, Anthony Marsh, and also, we already mentioned the lady who volunteer their service.